We loved every episode. The performances and writing and music and filming were all excellent. And we went through each one in detail week to week. Let's now take a look back at the season as a whole, taking the entire thing in context, looking at lots of little things that add up to big things, and lots of big things that add up to bigger things. From the sad to the exciting to the heartwarming to the optimism for the future of this corner of the franchise and fandom, let us gush geekily as we rehash the most memorable moments. All that and more on this episode of History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to our wrap-up episode for Night of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1. We are likely to return to our usual Sunday slot of 3, but we're going to go ahead and throw a poll up on Patreon to make sure that's what people want. Some of y'all might prefer this Monday slot, especially since we're going to go back to it for House of the Dragon season and having 2 shows in 1 year. Anyway, this is a good time to perhaps consider signing up for our Patreon. That way you can have some influence on this decision, as well as the upcoming Topics Moot 2026, where we vote tournament style on which episodes we will make this year. Remember to nominate for the Hugo Awards by March 28th. If you registered, we are suggesting Ragnarok versus The Long Night. You got to specify that it's by History of Westeros, and that's for best related work. That's the category we're going for. Hey, Sean, how's it going? I hope you're excited to talk about this season, and you brought yourself a wrap-up beverage of sorts, perhaps.
Excited to talk about the season. I don't know what to talk about. I have the standard Naked Drink and Magic Mine, which are a bright green and a dark green. And I mixed it with Mountain Dew Voltage for this electrifying season, which is blue. But the blue did not come through. When I mix a red drink in here, it turns kind of brown, but the blue just got drawn out by it.
Green boy. If you have questions for us, comments, things you noticed that we didn't catch, or just stuff you wanted to shout out, hit us up here live. Ashaya is monitoring the comments as best as possible while doing so many other things. And you can always hit us up after the fact if you didn't catch the live stream, or if you just thought of something later. Email us at westroshistory@gmail.com, or hit us up on one of our socials. Let's have a poll. We have this is another one of those guesswork / predictions poll. We won't necessarily know the answer to this, well, for at least 1 year, unless we get some sort of behind-the-scenes knowledge. And the question is, which character from Season 1 will we see again first? Now, we're limited a bit because YouTube polls are only 4 choices. So there's actually a few more possibilities here, but we debated it a little bit. Here's a choice. You could obviously write in your own answer if you think there's a better option than this, but here's what we are giving you a choice for. Rhaemon, Aerion, Maekar, Tanzel. None of these are obvious. Maekar, Sam Spruill already came forward, said he's not in Season 2. Book readers, that's no surprise. Aerion is exiled. So to book readers, no surprise if we don't see him for a little while. Tanzel, maybe we never see her again. That seems grim, and I wouldn't predict that, but it's possible.
George answered my question and said, there's a good chance, which is as good as saying yes.
Yeah, he's basically saying yes. You're right. That's basically a yes.
Tanzel would be my pick because she does reflect on Dorne in Book 2. And so that's a really good spot. But I don't remember if you reflected on her.
Can I tell you what my pick would actually be? And it's kind of a weird pitch, but it would be that if we see a montage of Duncan, Egg, and Dorne, if we just see that they're constantly 2 steps behind Tancel and she was there recently, you would show her never interacting with Dunk or Egg, but you would be like, damn, they're so close. They were so close.
Yeah.
That would be taking the POV thing a little farther than they have, but I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. Not saying
She's
they wouldn't do it.
She's still Commonborn.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
The one thing that makes me maybe want to say Tanzel the least likely is that she's the one that's the most incognito by far. Maekar, you know where he is. Aerion, you kind of know where he is too. Rhaemon, he's at his new castle. All these people are kind of in obvious known location. Dunk will know. On the other hand, Tanzel may come find him after he becomes more famous, but that's also a while away. He's not going to be famous for a while.
Another good guess is Maekar if we expect them to kind of show on screen him giving the signet to Egg. That doesn't happen in a book, but also
well, they said he's not in season 2, so that could happen in season 3 though. So you're right. Like that still might be sooner than any of the other. That could easily be sooner.
And to be clear, Sam Spruill said he wasn't going to be in season 2. It's also possible that they call him later than he thought.
We got one scene you get a film.
Yeah, like I would say his answer does not preclude that it is possible to me that they would add like a reshoot or add something to address this.
Okay, so vote on that poll, and we'll give you all the answers, what you think, what your percentages came out at the end of the episode. Related, our trivia question. This one we have a definitive answer for. Who is the only character from the Hedge Knight that we actually see again in a different Dunk and Egg story? One of the other two. Answer to that at the end as well. Super chat or comment from
Dunk again.
Dunk, the only character, not Egg. Yeah, no.
Aside from Dunk and Egg.
Yeah, aside from Dunk and Egg, exactly. Jillsville says, I've had the opening theme to History of Westeros, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms streams playing in my head for the past hour. Yeah, it was a pretty good tune, isn't it? Like the visuals are very appealing and memorable too, but that song does stick in my head.
We are looking into having him add it to Spotify so that y'all can listen to it or embed it in your Instagram stories or whatever. So we'll update if that works out.
And add it to your playlist if you're going to listen to the House of the Dragon, Seven Kingdoms, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms soundtrack, which is out now too, which we'll discuss briefly later in the episode. Corn Emperor sends a super chat, says, support for the best of Westeros, amazing season. I got to agree with you there. Thanks for the support. Let's talk a little bit about, we've got, as we normally do with most of our review episodes, we like to do some favorite moment type stuff. So we've got several ones this time, extra, more than usual since it's a wrap up. So we're going to have some fun with that. For a couple quick notes before that, well, really just one. This show was 3 hours, 28 minutes full runtime. That's rounding off to the minute. It could easily have been more like 3:30 or something like that. Definitely not less than 3:28 though, because we're not adding the seconds anyway. So that's pretty cool. It's almost like 2 movies in length, like a little shorter than 2 movies.
Or one long movie like Lord of the Rings Special Edition.
Yeah, good point. That's shorter than, I think the third one, The Return of the King full, just like 5.5 hours or something like that.
And, by the way, I think about this a lot when I make lists, my top shows or top movies or whatever. And I try to recognize there's maybe a difference between, what I think is best or what I like, my personal favorite or what is most popular. Those are all, different lists, And one reason for a list like that is what you want to recommend to people. And as much as I might like, say, Better Call Saul, when I recommend that, that's telling, hey, watch 70 hours of material.
Yeah.
This is such a good recommendation because it's so accomplished.
Yeah.
You could easily watch this in a week.
That's true. Yeah, you're totally right. It's nothing like starting on Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, where it's like, not only is it more time, it's way more to learn. Like you have to fit the world. There's more like setup, more things to memorize and understand. So yeah, I agree. So that by itself makes it an easier starting point for a lot of people. So with these questions we're about to answer amongst each other here on types of our highlight moments. I'm really trying harder to say the word highlight moment or highlight scene or whatever, because I don't think favorite really works. It's not that accurate. For one thing, I struggle with favorites in general. I don't like doing top 10 lists. I know Sean loves it. And so we have the opposite ends here, but the fact that you spend so much time on it is part of why I don't like it because it's so hard.
Yeah.
You appreciate that time. I don't like doing that. You enjoy it. So, to each his own.
And to your point, combined with what I was saying a second ago, a highlight is good because there are certain things that I recognize are iconic or everyone will love or capture the moment of the show, right? But those might all be different than my favorite, which might be some subtle nuance thing that just got me or whatever. So highlight might be any of those or all those or some combination or whatever.
Yeah, well said. It's not always about favorites. Sometimes it's just like, I just really wanted to make sure people caught notice of this, and that it deserves to be boosted. Something like that. Yeah. So let's start with we kind of danced around it most of the season. There's 6 of these questions we're going to be answering, 5 positive, 1 negative, 1 criticism, really. Not negative, as much as criticism. One thing we didn't actually talk a huge amount of was specifically Dunk himself. We always talked a lot about secondary characters. We talked a bit about Egg. We talked about other things that Dunk was a part of, but we never actually really focused in just on like a favorite Dunk moment. This is a perfect time to do it because we got the whole season for it. So Sean, start us off. What was your favorite Dunk scene, whether it had Egg or not?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think that the two that I'm inclined to pick out here, maybe more because they're my favorite, right? I've got to say that moment in the end when they ride off into sunset, like that just really hit me emotionally, even though it only lasted like, I don't know, 7 seconds, and it had egg in it also. But another one that I do want to point out that I really loved on a bunch of levels was the banter between Dunk and Egg, and even the behind the scenes when they're kind of mocking each other, like, "Oh, I'm Egg, I only eat fancy berries," or it was so funny, and so captured them well, and the general tone of the show and everything. But I guess if I want to zero in on Dunk, it's almost the obvious answer. Who among you, are there no true knights among you? That moment
nice,
was great and iconic and ripped straight from the pages of the book to the screen and everything. So.
All right, good call there. Shea, what about you?
I also would shout out their impressions of one another, Dunk's impression of Egg and Egg's impression of Dunk. And if there was a little bit of an outtake extended, I would like them to just give us the whole take of everything they tried, because that was improv on the day.
Please, yes.
So, but they gave us a little extended part of it, and I put that on the History of Westeros Facebook page. It's also just in some of the other extended materials, but you can find it clipped out on our Facebook. So I really liked that, and the fact that that was improv really put it over for me. But my favorite Dunk specific moment is when he softens and he teaches Egg to sew, because you could see he's kind of like scowling when Egg gets back. He's grumpy, he was worried, he thought maybe he did run off, like he's in a bad mood about it, and he's kind of being sour to him. And then there's this really visible moment where Dunk like looks at him and his expression just softens, and then he's like, "No, come over, let's teach you how to sew." And then they have like that really sweet moment where they sew, and they're brushing Thunder and Chestnut, they're brushing the horses. And it's a really small moment, but I do think Peter Claffey's acting and the writing beat was really strong to, I think, soften, like, to make the audience love Dunk as well. Like it was one of those moments that you respect and love.
Can I add a little thing to that too? Something I noticed on a rewatch in that moment. If you remember, Dunk says, "Oh, whatever it was, Egg won." He's like, "Go brush the horses," and then he's like, he kind of sighs, like you said, and he's like, "Actually, come here. I'll teach you how to sew a patch. We'll brush the horse together later." Like, it's not this dirty work punishment I'm giving you. It could be something we work on as a team. It's something. It shouldn't be a punishment to do that. It should be something you appreciate and you're helping.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels, I agree. Yeah.
It was an admirable reaction. Like, he corrected himself. He's like, this is wrong. Like, I don't want to treat this kid this way. This is not a good lesson. This is not the way I want to do it. Yeah. Like, you wish more like parents would do that, or just authority figures in general would like stop and think, like, what am I doing? What message am I really sending here? Am I being too harsh? This should be a teachable moment, right? Not a punishable moment. Maybe or at least that should be secondary.
If I was in a better mood, would I do the same thing right now?
Very good point. Like, yeah, how is my mood affecting my impression of all this and my reaction to it? For me, it's episode 5 stuff mostly, I think. Basically, the range he goes through there, from the really heartwarming, almost heartbreaking added footnote, or not footnote, but follow up to the "I'll send dogs after you, I'll hunt you down with dogs," because that's in the book, the original, but not the second time when he does it again before the trial. That's added. That was really good, using the material they already have in a really meaningful way. And then he goes from that to the just. It's so impressive, the thinking about it. Like you said, Sean, there's different things you think of when you're trying to give you someone credit for something. Just imagining how difficult that scene to film was, the fight. I'm like, God, with the wasp and the blood and the mud and the hitting each other in the face by accident and all the other stuff, and just doing it over and over. So that's just, I got to give credit for that. And then at the end, his reaction to Baelor's death was just showing the range. Yeah, like, wow. And if I wasn't going to name that, I would just say the actual first scene of the whole show, which was just immediately told you, oh, they're doing it right. I mean, this is only the first scene, but this is damn good for a first scene. So just that first moment where I was like, whew, all right. What a great start. That was like almost relaxed a little bit, I
don't want to ramble too much, but, this is a tough category to choose from. And I want to throw out that two of my contenders are follow-ups that I might have named were the opening scene too. And also the Dunk dragging Arryn through the mud. That was another just like very, I mean, you should give as much credit to Martin for writing that or whatever, but they put it on screen perfectly. So.
Well said. All right, next one, we're following up with a sort of maybe predictable second question. Favorite egg or highlight, sorry, I broke my own rule there. Highlight egg moment / scene / take. Sean, do it.
With just egg, and again, there's several contenders. I'm probably stealing one by even mentioning when he goes to Arryn with the knife. That was really good, and not even in the book. I don't know, in a way that makes me a little extra impressed with it. But if I have to pick one, I think it's Egg's airbender training. When he goes off on his own with a horse, and he's swooshing around with the staff, and the interaction with Robin Reisling. I loved all that, and man, I wish at some point somewhere in the tournament fair they could have had a cabbage dealer in there get his cart knocked over. If you guys know Airbender, you would get that reference.
Okay.
I don't even have to know it to know that reference because I've seen many cosplays at Dragon Con and have
awesome.
friends who've cosplayed him, actually. So.
I just like the idea of cabbage things getting spilled over. That's just funny. Just the image, I have no idea what you're talking about. But yes, cabbages everywhere. Ashaya, please tell us your highlight egg moment.
Most of mine are more comedic. I do really like the hair regrowth scene. I think we're all highlighting that because it was no dialogue, such a heavy scene for such a young actor, and just an amazing scene all around, right? I really like the more comedic moments with him, like when he's asking for Dunk's advice regarding his size, when he's, philosophizing about the Alice with Three Fingers song, which I think both of those spoke a lot to kind of Egg's personality. You get to know him better. And they made me laugh a lot, made me really think a lot about Egg's future personality. I think people heard me a lot talk about Egg's dogged spirit in the podcast, and I do think that resonates with Egg in a way. But also the Hello Operator song, the Miss Susie, Blackfire song that he does. I just was very tickled by that, and it has to go on my list. Yeah,
you're already seeing, folks, that we really can't do this the way I've laid it out. We can't name one. It's impossible. We each are naming each other. Like, I'm going to also name the hair regrowth one because, God, that was so good. And it's kind of the only one that's like that in terms of, like, it's Egg's darkest scene by far. So many of the others, including the ones we're highlighting here, are, if not humorous, they're lighthearted. Right, like the Egg training stuff is pretty lighthearted. It's got some depth to it for sure. Like the way he pushes back against what his father taught him about horses. I thought that was pretty cool, and the fact that he's doing it at all, that he's, getting up early to work, and train. That's pretty cool. But yeah, also the Nine Kingdoms epilogue bit was just too funny. I love that. I mean, that's really a Dunk and Egg moment, but it's really Egg that makes that moment funny. Dunk's reaction kind of sells it, but he's just stuttering like, what? No, are you mad? And that's pretty much the only thing he says. And Egg steals that moment too by saying, is that relevant? So, which is a great response. But as far as like the most like sincere moment, I would say it's when Dunk says to him, this is also kind of cheating because it's really Dunk is a big part of this moment, but it's Egg's reaction that gets me. And Dunk says, you really are a good worker when you put your mind to it. And the way he looks at Dunk, like he's just like, it's that best thing he could have said, and he's just like, well, does that mean you'll keep me after this? I can squire for you after the tournament. And the way he looks with that, it's just like the thing he wants most in the world. And it's so touching. Yeah.
You mentioned here, but I don't think you said it there, but you mentioned get up, Sarah, potentially. Shout out to that moment, him saying get up, Sarah, and wait, because it was really impressive. And because I've seen a lot of hilarious memes and TikToks of it. A lot of people have made him saying get up, Sarah, their alarm clock. I've seen a lot of videos of this. Oh my God. It's a great alarm clock sound. I've probably seen 5 to 10 of these videos of someone like waking up to get up, Sarah.
What we need is like yellow lights or like hazard lights that are out in the room. Wait! Like you're trying, something. We got to find a way to fit that into the real world too.
I will say, by the way, I had forgotten about that moment when Dunk's like, oh, Egg's like, I'm too small. And Dunk says, some people say I'm too dumb. And then Egg's like,
what else? And yeah. I put that one on the list. So, folks, I put up a couple of polls on Patreon and Facebook for y'all to vote in moments like this, and that was one of the ones I included for like for favorite I think it was favorite non-book moments was one of the polls, like things that didn't happen in the books. I think like favorite moments that they invented for the show only. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Real quick, also, I got to shout out Three Fingered Alice. I think at the time I said that was my favorite scene of that episode. Yeah, that's just, I love that so much. All right, so non-Dunk and Egg moment scene. We're taking the two main characters out. Sean, what you got?
You know, there's hardly any scenes that don't have Dunk or Egg. I think, I mean, depending on how you define a scene and how you define Dunk, maybe like the flashbacks when he was a boy. I don't, you know.
Just to be clear, they're allowed to be in the scene. It's just like someone else's moment, though. Yeah. You know, it isn't them. They can be there to respond or react or do something. Yeah, it could
be a Raymond Fossaway moment, but it's him talking to Dunk.
Yeah.
I'll say I had a hard time thinking about this one because I wasn't quite sure what to count or how to count it. Well, I landed on Arlen, when Dunk was following Arlen, and he's kind of drunk and singing Dothraki and stabbed himself with his own knife. I think that if I had to pick one, I think that's it.
Nice, that's a good one. Yeah, I appreciate you singling that one out. What about you, Shea?
I'm gonna say a scene from episode 1, which was Dunk going to the party, but it's not for the Dunk of it all. It's for the Lionel Baratheon of it all, and for kind of. It was, I think, one of the first moments in the show where I saw them do something different and nail it, you know, and where I saw them expand on Lionel Baratheon's character in a way that I found satisfying, intriguing, resonant with what we could know about the character. You know, he's saying kind of the right things, I guess, with what I would imagine he'd say. And so, and like the dancing in the scene, the film work, the way that they filmed it to really seem like this bacchanal type of party, like just there's so much about it, from the acting to the choreography to just, again, that I was so pleased to get something new and fresh that was not in the books that I felt like could have been.
Yeah, and that was a big, like the way I referenced the first scene and how I was like, oh, okay, they're doing this right. That's a great sign. This was the first like added scene. It was a big one, and they got that right too, or did a really good job. So that was also kind of like comforting. Like, okay, well, they're going to be adding other scenes. Well, at least this first one was really good too. So yeah, I really like that you highlighted that one because it showed the expansion of a character and the expansion of a plot in ways that fit. Didn't override anything, didn't try to go too far in some new direction. They weren't trying to be too creative. They worked really well with what they had. And for myself, I'll choose a kind of an easy slam dunk moment. Baelor joining Dunk just at the end of episode 4. This is partly for a meta reason. We know how important that moment is in the book. We figured out, which is wasn't very difficult to figure out, that it would be the end of an episode. That seems very straightforward. So it was more about like, well, are they going to nail this moment? And how will the fans react to it? Because that's two different things. They could nail this moment and it could still be like, oh, that was kind of cool. You know, we would hope for something more than, oh, that was kind of cool. And it was way more. The fans loved it. The fans blew up. It was maybe the first episode where people really, really started to fall for the show. Like, people were into it. But I think episode 4 is when, if not episode 3 with the reveal and all the heartwarming moments, it was episode 4 when it got so serious and like, ooh. So that's a really big one for me. I'll go ahead and highlight that one. Now for criticism. And before a couple of more positive ones, let's do the criticism here. Biggest disappointment. Sean, what is your biggest disappointment or disappointments, if you feel like mentioning more than one?
Well, my biggest disappointment, by far, obviously, is that we didn't get to see the actual moment when Dunk certainly was knighted. Sure, we would get that on screen. You know, George just forgot to put it in the books. But aside from that, I was a little disappointed with maybe two other things, and one was, one's just kind of my nitpickiness about action, and I'm a little extra disappointed because they did so many other things so well, including all the action stuff. So it bugged me. I mentioned it bugged me that Dunk is like on a makeshift crutch. It's really just a stick, and he uses his hand to kind of cushion it, but that hand had just got a knife stuck through. Like they
Mitch,
made.
Can I tell you, Sean?
Yeah.
I'm with you more today than I was last week because I sprained my ankle on Friday and tried to go.
Yeah.
I succeeded in going to a rave the next night, but it was a rave that was all like you had to take stairs to get down, and I had a knee scoot. It was very hard, and so like thinking about him getting down to that funeral, I'm more with you than I ever was. But for TV, I still get why they have to change that.
It is. It's a type of thing that and I don't know if that bothers me more or less, but they could have done something slightly different to omit that. They could have just had him not put his arm up there, or had the funeral in a different spot, or not shown us it was up the hill, something. I don't know. But the other thing that bugs me, because I think it might have more implications in how the plot goes, is the final scene when Maekar is like, where is Egg? Now, right now, I can easily write that off, because I think easily, with one line of dialogue, they could just resolve that. We're like, well, it's a good thing the Kingsguard caught up to us and gave you that signal. They could just easily one-line dialogue. I give them probably 3 scenes. I bet we get 3 scenes of interaction or discussion or something. But I think they're just going to move past that quick and easy, and it won't really affect things. But, it kind of stirs us up with like, well, what now? It creates this, I feel, suspicion in the fandom of what that means and how it will come from. And even maybe more importantly, it takes away a little bit from Maekar's decision or growth or whatever.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that.
I would say that suspicion is not necessarily bad. I would say part of it is good to get people theorizing buzz. But regardless,
that's a good point. Even like the big penis people didn't like it, but it sure did get a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
Right? Or
I didn't even want to
scene,
name that as a disappointment, because I don't want to give it more airtime.
Who could be disappointed by that, Sean?
My parents. It makes it hard for me to recommend it to my parents. You know what I mean? They just take that out, and this is a slam dunk for my parents to watch.
Would they be fine with the horse being stabbed in the neck?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care about that.
Whereas, let me tell you, a difference between our parents. My mom kept bringing up Arla, and she loved it. She thought it was the funniest thing. She brought it up many times. That horse, she was very upset. She was like, it was very violent. And then again, when the 5th episode with the big fight, she was not as into. She wanted more penis, I think.
So, real quick before yours, Ashaya, just to add on to what you said here, I watched a couple of videos, and there's a real disparity. Like, I watched a couple of videos about like a doctor or an ER nurse weighing in on the injuries, and another where people were weighing in on the armor. And neither side understood the other. Like doctors obviously know medicine way better than anybody, like me, you, these guys who understand, but they actually don't understand armor. They don't understand medieval armor. So that's kind of off, and it was interesting to see that disparity. Like they understand one thing like as well as anyone in the world, and the other like their understanding might be even less than you and me, because they don't watch fantasy shows or think about armor. So anyway, that's not a way. I'm not trying to rehash all that. It was just thought it was interesting. There's a variety of takes out there on all this. And as using Ashaya's example, her perspective changed based on having her own injury. And that's extremely valid. Experience is one of the most valid things there is.
Can I interject one thing here since you brought up armor? I just kind of threw out there one time. I think when we were talking about how exhausted they'd be fighting, just wearing the armor around, never mind the exertion and the wounds and all. And I was like, that armor weighs 100 pounds. And I didn't really know. I just threw that out there. And I think you said 60 is more accurate.
And I said I was 60 for full plate, which he's not wearing, and neither is Aryan.
Right. I was going to say there's a lot of variation. And one, just off the bat, think about it. Dunk's armor would weigh more than Raymond's armor, right? So just how big you are, what type of armor you're wearing. But the heaviest armor is jousting armor, which ostensibly they're wearing. Maybe they're not wearing, especially Dunk might not have the
they wouldn't be wearing jousting armor for a trial by 7. That would be for a tournament.
They know they're going to end up down off the horses and fight, yeah. But jousting armor weighs, give or take, 100, 130 pounds. Like Dunk's might be 130. And
nice. Does that include the shield and...
I don't think that even includes the shield.
Ooh, well, the shield's not that heavy, probably, but yeah.
But you do have to think that is another.
It's adding on,
8 pounds, and I don't know if that would include things like their clothes underneath, which might be like padded cotton.
I believe it does because that's inseparable from the kit. You can't really take that. You know what I mean? Why would you count the weight of not that if it's only ever going to be worn together?
But I remember both myself and some of the reading and research I did that modern Marines in combat are usually wearing, give or take, 80 pounds of stuff. Now that includes like
ancient Roman legionaries as well. They would carry around all that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
And when I was in the army and I had like a radio and batteries, I was in intelligence, so I had extra maps and whatever extra stuff. But I was carrying around, and I'm only 125, and I was carrying almost 100 pounds. That's after I jumped out of the plane, because getting on the plane, I also had the parachute in the reserve. So, anyway, it's the type of thing that exhausts you just walking the distance of a football field or whatever. Never mind running around and swinging and everything.
And then how tired you are afterwards when you're fueled by the adrenaline that allowed you to do more than you would have normally been able to do. And then once that adrenaline's gone, you're like, oh, how did I do any of that?
Tired. The actors portrayed that very well, I felt.
Yes,
I don't think they were skimping on that.
That was another one of my picks for dunk scene was when he pulls himself up and like, ugh, it's all I can do just to raise this sword back up to the ready. And Arian's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Has to lean over and pick up his sword.
And I made the point about Aryan that his adrenaline would have already faded because he thought it was over. And like, how do you get back to that? Anyway. So we've stuck with this point a little too long. Let's move on. Ashaya, your favorite or your disappointment.
My favorite disappointment.
Your favorite disappointment.
I actually for me, it was Tancel. I think there were a couple beats and scenes, moments that weren't in the show that were in the book, specifically with her and Egg. Her and Tancel, her and Egg interacted a little bit more. Like she played with the puppets with him a little bit more in the novella. Not a lot, but when a character's as scant as that, I wanted that as well.
Yeah, seems like they replaced that with just him watching more scenes of him watching, which isn't as.
But I would have liked to have him and Tancel just talking and interacting more. Anyway, so it's that, and just the length of the episode. I think I want more, so that's got to be it for me.
Right on. I have three quick ones. One was the lack of the Dunk's reaction to the small folk, which I acknowledge they just goofed and left that. They meant to have that in and forgot. So, oh well. Don't be too hard on them for that, but it absolutely is a disappointment. I was hoping for more jousting. Not a big deal, and more appearances of some of the other nobles. That also, I can kind of go, okay, that's a budget thing. The the tug of war was sort of a replacement for jousting that they couldn't afford. I think that's a lot of a theory that's out there that seems like almost certainly true. And I was a little disappointed with the funeral because all season long I was like, oh, we're going to see some cool characters at the funeral. That didn't really happen. There were characters that we still don't know who they are, so maybe when we learn who they are, if we learn who they are, I might go back and go, okay, this was a little cooler than I thought. But right now, I had higher hopes for that, and it didn't really pan out.
Part of your, excitement or anticipation was your ability to recognize who they were. Like, I should know these people through context and signs and da-da-da, and we still weren't able to. People who we thought would be there either weren't there or we couldn't identify them, and that's a little bit.
Yeah. Which is by the budget's the same reason why some of those figures were seen walking at the end and why only certain people had horses. That's almost certainly budget as well, the horse budget, all that.
I saw someone who had a satisfying answer to that, which is that often when you're at a courtyard like that, everyone would exit and get in carriages outside of the courtyard. Like they have carriages waiting for them. Arian
was already on a carriage though, but you might be right still.
He needed it desperately. Everyone else can just get out there.
That's a good point. Get him
because
straight
it takes longer to load them in if they get everyone into the courtyard. Anyways, it was someone was talking about real world.
They would be carriages.
Castles.
You're right. They wouldn't be. Most of them would not be riding on horses. They'd be carriages. You're right. That's a good point.
Think if those ladies, specifically Kiara of Tyrosh and the other ladies with her, if they were leaving the courtyard and then they're all going to get in a carriage a little bit later, then that's fine.
Yeah, I can see that. You're right. That's a pretty good. I can work with that for sure. All right, so let's highlight non-Dunk and Egg character that you really liked the most or thought stood out the most. Sean, hit it.
Well, my default is Baelor, but I two things I feel like is a little cheating. He's among the most obvious ones to pick, and also I don't know quite how to say this because disappointment isn't quite the right word, but because he was good, he was. I was going to say fine, but not just fine, but good. But somehow just didn't quite hit. And I don't know how much it was the actor or the story around him, but he didn't quite hit this, monumental character to look up to that I felt in the book, So, but yeah, I'm still picking him here. And in my backup, who I'm antsy about picking as my number one because it was villainous, but Arian did a really good job. I thought he had more depth in the show than he did in the book. And
Agree,
I think that was done well. It made it more meaningful, made him more interesting.
Right on. Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with you about Arian. I probably don't agree with you about Baelor. I felt like he came off similarly to the book, but that's just me. I definitely wouldn't argue. Ashaya, what about you?
I'm going to say Lionel Baratheon. I thought Daniel Ings was just so charismatic. Every time he was on screen, I was excited. I see him in the background and I was like, oh, it's Lionel there. You know, like I was enthused about him. So, I mean, I feel like that's the easy answer. I feel like he was such a standout, popular character for so many people, honestly. But, you know, I don't need to avoid a popular answer just because it's popular. I think he's popular for good reason. And that actor brought a lot to the role. And I think Ira Parker talked about this, that they went through casting that role and it just wasn't clicking. And then it wasn't hitting for him. And then Daniel Ings comes in and he just brought so much of himself to it. So much swagger and all of that, I guess. And I was like, yeah, like their Lionel is a lot of Daniel Ings in it, I think. And so that was cool to learn about. So I'm gonna say
Right on.
Lionel.
Yeah, well done there. Okay, so for me, I've been picking Raymond all season long. I've by now a lot of you are like, that dude Aziz must have a man crush on Raymond, and you're right. I do. I like that guy a lot. I liked him from the second he appears. Like, I like that guy. And it's just stayed all season long. I like Raymond. Everybody likes Raymond, but especially me.
I would love Raymond?
I think I do love Raymond. Yes, I do love Raymond. And Sir Arlen, too. Just, that's one that it's hard to point, except maybe episode 5 or maybe episode 6 as well. There's not like a single moment in for earlier episodes where you can go, Arlen, boom, you know, like there's just little bits and pieces. If you look at it as a whole, and this is one of the characters that most benefits from looking at the season as a whole, it really comes together more. And like I said, especially because they did such a great job with his ending, with his epilogue, and with how much he meant to Dunk when it mattered most, and how Dunk thought through him, and how he was the character that Dunk spent the most time thinking about and landing in a good place on. Like, yeah, he had problems, he had issues, but the most important thing was he taught me to be a true knight, and that outweighs everything else because that's like such a huge thing. So that was really good. I like that. You
know, Aziz, my second answer would have been Raymond.
Nice.
You'd already written him, and I wanted to say Lionel more anyways, but I also feel that Sean Thomas brought an extra sparkle to Raymond just by his accent.
Yeah, I love the accent. And Stefan Fossaway, too. I love both those guys' accents.
Yeah. Stefan really, like, I knew what was going to happen, and that actor had me, like, really wanting to believe him. Like, he was very convincing. Yes. Stefan is a good actor in addition to his actor.
Yeah, go Fossaways. Yeah.
But as you said, when I point your shirt out, I can tell it's, Targaryen dragon emblem, but they're red and green like apples, kind of roundish.
I should make you a red and green apple shirt.
I need one.
Shirt.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. I'll wear it
I wish I'd done it before this season. I should think. I got to think more about your shirts ahead of time.
That's great. Yeah, and of course, just and not to mention the very obvious and pleasing parallels to Podrick that they put in with him. He's just so Podricky, which is of course so perfect because of Brienne, right? I mean, that's the connection is straightforward. Gotta love that, right? Highlight character / performance who had very few lines or scenes. Now, very few is open to interpretation. You two both picked one that I think maybe goes over. Like, I think Pate had too many lines. I think Rowan did too. But you're allowed to talk about them. I'm just going to say that I was thinking of people who had like 2 or 3 lines at most. But let's see what you all said. Sean, what is your choice?
Yeah, my first instinct was Pate, but one, I was debating how much of that is because I feel, and again, I'm trying to give a measured response here. I don't think Pate was bad or in any way in the show, but he hit me harder in the book. I appreciated him more in the book than I did in the show. I still loved him in the show, but even more in the book. But also, I was questioning whether or not, how minor. I wasn't sure how minor you wanted to get here. And I realized when it impressed me significantly that was minor in the show and book, and impressed me more in the show than in the book was Valar. I think that little bit at the end with Valar, I don't even know if he spoke that time when Arian rode up to him and said, no, I won't embarrass you today, cousin. We saw him, but I don't think he spoke. And I don't think we even saw him again until, maybe he was like somewhere in the background. I didn't notice, but when Dunk comes up and asks him, and that was it. That moment was in the book.
Yes.
And I think that,
they slightly expanded the lines.
They gave him one extra line, yeah.
When he talked about his
father's
father
armor.
dying in his
Yeah.
armor, yeah. And if I remember right, I think it was him that said, "What did your tree tell me?" And they moved that to Makar.
No, that's still Makar.
Right?
No, that was still Makar. That was still Makar.
Okay. But anyway, I thought that moment was really good. I think again, like the whole point is, he didn't have much screen time, but that little moment, I think he nailed it. Yeah, and
I agree.
And I also want to give some credit to the filmmaking in general. I think it was really good the way they cut to Dunk. His voiceover is still happening, and we see Dunk walking through town, and he tells him, "Be gone." It's a thing that, like, we want to love Dunk, and it's extra hurtful because we know what Dunk's going through, but also we know what Villar's going through too. Like, it makes sense for him to be upset and frustrated. He could have been a lot meaner there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was really well done. That he wasn't mean. It was like, look, I understand everything that happened, but like the sight of you is still upsetting me. Like, I know it's not necessarily your fault, but like I'm hurt and I can't deal with it. Yeah, it was very human. And you're right. The performance, those couple lines was just Oscar Morgan nailed it. Ashaya, who is your choice?
Well, you said Rowan/Red is maybe a little too featured. I still will shout her out because, I mean, there's not many women in the show, and they wanted to add it. She had quite a character arc, and it's a good actress. A lot of her scenes were just her kind of her reactions and not really her talking that much, But for someone who counts for your actual specifications, Gwen, she had a lot of lines too, like a good amount, but I'll say Gwyn because they turned a nothing character, just kind of this nameless girl that this whole tourney is centered around, that we never really learn anything about, and they gave her a personality, a clear arc. She looked young. Like, we watched it with some friends, and she said that thing about how Dunk was big and stupid. And our friend goes, "What is she, 12?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, it's her 13th birthday."
And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Yeah.
So like, I felt like that actress was good. I felt like the writing was good. It came full circle with her being teary-eyed and upset about the grave injustice and what she'd witnessed. And yeah, I just thought that was a great arc for her. Both ladies I mentioned, I think both of them had kind of a complete arc, a story to them, I suppose, which I appreciated.
I agree. Yeah, good shout out there. Sean, you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to point out, Ashaya, that when that first scene happened, and she's like, "Oh, you're dumb and stupid," and she kind of ran off. And I was a little perplexed by that.
I was like, "Oh, I get this instantly." I'm like, she wants to share the tea. She wants to gossip. She's a 13-year-old girl.
And since you said that, I can't stop thinking about it. It makes me appreciate that moment and that character more. And I'm even thinking in the next season about the War Maester who wants to gossip with everyone. And it is just kind of part of the world and people's lives, especially back then when there wasn't like,
no social media, no TV.
Social media or anything to tune into or whatever. The only thing you had to talk about is what Jimmy did at the market.
What other nobles brought their 13-year-old daughters with them, to the tournament? Probably very few, if any. She's like, yeah.
That's a shame. Like, you're like, this is a tournament for a 13-year-old girl.
They're like, where the other little girl? Yeah, like they belong there too. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I totally agree. That was a really good added. Those are both very good added characters that were actually there, but their role was like Red was there, or at least a redheaded sex worker was there in the book. They don't give her a name. Which is kind of funny that they call her Red, because that's like, well, that was what she read. That's the only thing we know about her. Yeah. But yeah, that was really good. Little small touches like that really help fill it out. I'll choose one of the either Beesbury or Sir Robin. I really appreciated both the efficient way they gave us a little bit to like about both of them very quickly. Like Sir Robin, I loved his, "If it is madness bid, it is madness delivered." Like, his delivery was just off in a way that fits a guy who's a little off. Like, that his intonation and inflections were a little weird, which is perfect.
I would put Robin around the same tier as Red for me. Like, in terms of the dialogue that they share.
I thought Red had a lot more dialogue than Robin. Robin, I think, only had like 4 lines in the whole thing. I think Red probably had like 10 or 12 lines. But whatever. Like, that's not necessarily a huge difference, because there's more than just lines. There's also like facial reactions, like you said, like Red standing up and going, "Come on," during the trial was like a great moment for her, that she was kind of the only one. I like that one. And Beesbury, like, let's not forget that Humphrey Beesbury was the one who did those amazing splits in the first episode to start off the dancing, and then was doing all this great dancing, and he had that great mustache. And And the fact that both of these houses, more so Beesbury by a lot, actually got some more, like they expanded on how, like their house lore, like the bee coffin. That was a
bee's
cool
burial.
that was a great touch. The bee's burial. Yeah, like nice. Like good job with that. You know, it wasn't just the character, it was the lore around them.
Can I highlight another thing that I like that doesn't quite fit into any of the categories that you had? And maybe you guys might want to do the same thing. The flashbacks, I thought it was awesome. I thought the use of flashbacks was awesome. Both the timing, the editing, in addition to the actual material that we saw, and I was fine. I've seen some complaints about the long one with Rafe and all that. And even being longer gives more space to complain or whatever, I guess.
Well,
I thought that was fine, and I generally loved them throughout, particularly the quick little snippets of Arlen. I loved it.
Well, this is a perfect time for me to bring up a quote from Ira Parker's. This was from an IGN interview where he speaks to the flashbacks and Sir Arlen, and I'll read it, and you can tell you guys can give me your takes and all. We're done with Sir Arlen, Parker said. Sir Arlen is allowed to go rest. He has done his job with Dunk. Dunk is now a knight, and he's heading off to have his own journeys with his own squire. Would Sir Arlen ever come back? I would love that. First of all, I just love Danny Webb, and I think he's a genius, and I think he is Sir Arlen, and he just did such a brilliant job for us. But we will do flashbacks when they're appropriate for the story. For the moment, I would say we're probably not even doing them as frequently as we did in season 1. They're different, they're changed, they're a reflection of the story that we're in and where Dunk is in his life. That took me aback. I would have thought there might be still plenty of Arlen flashbacks. There might be a lot of flashbacks in season 2. It definitely surprised me a little bit. And maybe it's a misdirect, and maybe he's just underplaying it. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's a little surprising to me, too, because not only did I kind of expect there to be more Arlen flashbacks, but I also kind of anticipated some Blackfire Rebellion flashbacks. But the context of what you said just there makes me think
implies
not,
limited.
No, he didn't. Yeah, no, I don't think anything they said there precludes, like, Blackfire flashbacks. It sounds like he says like he's saying that's what there will, because it has to fit the story.
Well, he's just saying we're not doing them as frequently. It just it makes it seem different.
They're going to be about where Dunk is right now, and that's a little bit. But again, it doesn't preclude it, but it makes me think
right. Well, where he is right now is in a service to a former Blackfire Lord. Who does very little but think about what could have been. Like he mopes over it. Well, not mopes is a little unfair. He lost pretty much his whole family. That's underselling it. But still, yeah. So I think that is it's inextricable from the plot line that is very Blackfire coded.
I guess in my head, I would have thought season 2 might have more flashbacks, not fewer. So that's where I'm surprised. I
don't necessarily agree. I would think longer flashbacks, less of them though, because you have to show extended moment. Like the way Sir Eustace thinks about it is these descriptions of battle. And these aren't something that you can do with one quick flash. He's like describing a long duel between Daemon Blackfire and Gawain Corbray, and what happens before it and right after it. And like, I don't think you can just do 2 seconds. Like that's 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and you're going to have several of those. Maybe. I mean, you would think that's a strong possibility. But we'll see. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, they obviously haven't done all this yet. This is just still in the planning phase. They're filming some of it, but it's not all set in stone yet. So, yeah, well, it'll be fun to come back and look at this a little later and see what's actually done and how the flashbacks have changed. And that'll give us a better idea to predict season 3 if they have different, like, approaches to the way they do flashbacks. Because as we discussed, it's not just the Blackfire stuff. It's like, well, are they going to do Dorne as a flashback? Old Town as a flashback? Visiting Maester Aemon? All that, yeah.
Maekar finding him and giving him the ring?
Yeah, added scenes like that, sure. Yeah, perfect examples. So, on the same theme as characters like Gwyn and Sir Robin and Beesbury and maybe even Valar, there were characters who were particularly expanded on. The most, more than others, I'd say, and those would be the ones we want to discuss now. Most of the characters, like the Targaryens, for example, weren't changed very much. They were adapted very seamlessly to the page, almost. Like, sure, Makar's personality was a little different. His delivery was a little different. Baelor, Sean said maybe he didn't have quite the weight. I didn't agree with that. But either way, the dialogue that he's given is almost identical to the book, and his scenes are almost identical. But I think I think it's a character like Sir Lionel that Ashea highlighted earlier that we come back to here and there is maybe the most shining example, maybe the character that was most expanded on. Certainly there's a case to be made for that. It may be Sir Arlen or Raymond or other cases to be made, but we'll see. Let's talk about Sir Lionel for a minute. I'll start it off and then hand it off to you guys. In addition to disliking dragons, as we see in episode 6 there, Lionel's a Stormlander. That's something we forgot to mention, which might be a thing about, well, he doesn't like Dornish people, and Baelor is half Dornish, so he might not have liked, that's another angle to Baelor that he might not have been so pro about. He said the line, "The others effing geld me," in response to his witch maester saying things. That's an interesting little tidbit because the line "the others" has never been used on the TV before. They never used that. They only call them White Walkers. That was for a meta reason. It was because at the time, the show Lost was still pretty recent. Well, there's two reasons. That was one of the reasons. The show Lost was pretty recent. It's not really recent anymore in 2026. So they don't really have to care about that anymore. But The Others was a very big part of Lost. Also, when you're reading the book, when you're reading A Song of Ice and Fire, it's capital O Others. You get that it's a primary noun or whatever. So you're not confused by just a generic "those others." In the show, there's no way to communicate that. So, not easily. So they just went with White Walkers, which is a more distinct, unique name. So here we can easily just say, well, language drift. This is 90 years before. Like, people just call things differently, over time. And words become trending and then fall off and then come back again. So this is a simple thing, but it was probably meant to be a fun little Easter egg there. I like how they made him a little bit of a madman. Some people kind of noted that he was a little bit like Jack Sparrow. And then he said, yeah, I was trying to be a little bit like Jack Sparrow. It's like, oh, how about that? I like the madman interpretation because working with what they had, we don't know much about Laughing Storm. He's tall. That's not really a personality trait as much as they tried to make it one jokingly in the in that tent scene with Lionel. He just laughed a lot and wanted to fight the Kingsguard. Like, he didn't have much of a personality, so they went with what they had. Like, this guy's a little crazy, isn't he? He wants to fight the Kingsguard. He laughs for 10 minutes straight while someone's challenging him. Remember I pointed that before? Like, someone challenges him, he laughs. He's still laughing as he's mounting his horse. He's still laughing as he's charging. Like, how long is this process? How long that's 10 minutes of laughing. Like, that is a little crazy, isn't it? So
your cardio.
Yeah. He's laughing at how heavy his armor is, and he's like, this is nothing to me. So yes, he's got a little bit of Tyrion in him, a little Jack Sparrow, maybe a little Loki, a little bit of, because the mischievous is there too. They're like, he might want to start a war. He's kind of talking about that. And he's often I personally find the noble or rich person who has everything and is bored by life as kind of a compelling, realistic portrayal in any setting. So that worked. A guy that, like, he's an adrenaline junkie, almost nothing really excites him. It's more that than actual bravery. It's like, yes, he's brave because he can face dangers, but it's more the appeal of adrenaline than rather conquering his own fear kind of thing, if that makes sense. So I wonder if given the setup they have, I wonder what else we're going to see. Like, is there going to be build up? Are we going to hear about him from afar? Are Dunk and Egg going to hear news about Lionel? Like, that's a thing. If his father dies and he becomes Lord of Storm's End, that's the kind of thing a way to keep up with him in between seasons. That's the kind of news that would sweep the country, like the Lord of Storm's End is passed. Everyone would be talking about that. And also, I wonder, like, who else, if he's recruiting Dunk for something, because he saw the power of Dunk and the appeal of Dunk and the quality. Who else is he recruiting, Who else is he gathering, in his corner? So, anyway, I appreciated all that. I really liked the expansion of the character. Do either of y'all have anything to add about the expansion of Sir Lionel's character?
Yeah. Well, the log line for the character, was part Jack Sparrow, part Ernest Hemingway. Was what they combined, what they compared him to. I see in the chat, I like this a lot. Sunny Skies 4000 says Lionel reminded me of Taika Waititi as Blackbeard, and our flag means death. He did have a bit of that swaying pirate, you know.
Wow,
a
you're
little
right.
bit capricious sometimes,
Even a sailor,
like emotional, kind of just wanting to do things for the fun of it.
A man crush on the main character.
Very fruity. Very that's something we haven't said here about Lionel, but I think it can't be ignored that he is very queer coded in the way that a future lordling would be, you know, like he's not, we're never going to see him living that life, but he is going to talk about fingers up the bum and smack Dunk's ass. And you know what I mean? Like, it's as coded as it could be without making him a gay character, which also is going to kind of be foreshadowing, I don't know, a little amuse-bouche, I don't know, an appetizer to what we're going to get in the third book in the Mystery Night with John the Fiddler, where he has, you know, another guy who has a kind of a crush on him. A definite crush. So, you know, so I think Lionel set the stage for everybody wants Dunk. You know, everybody is kind of captivated by Dunk. Even someone who is this charismatic man as Lionel Baratheon wants Dunk on his side and by his side and finds him attractive in some way.
He sees the power of Dunk. He's like, this guy's got a future. He noticed it before most other people, if not anyone, even except maybe Egg.
He wants him on his side, by his side, on his lap.
Yep. So let's move on. House Fossaway. Sorry. One more time.
Can I get my 2 cents on Lionel?
Oh yeah, my bad. I thought you did. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I agree and appreciate everything you guys have all said. But I came away with a little bit of a sour note from Lionel. I thought that he was coming across a little prejudice against the Targaryens and not reading the room well with Dunk. You know, I think that, and I do think it's understandable.
Sean. I want to tell you, I like that. I don't want a character without flaws, and I like that he has those flaws.
Right. I should clarify. It doesn't make me not like the character or the performance or the edition or whatever else. But it makes me not like Lionel, and also it makes me not like Lionel as much. It just took him down one notch.
Usually you're speaking in world, not like you don't dislike the way he was written, or you're just like,
presented well,
I didn't like that.
He performed well, he was interesting, you know, all the stuff you guys said. But his, I don't know, disdain for the Targaryen in the face of Dunk, who is trying to appreciate a Targaryen, like that moment was like, I feel like, Lionel, you just wrote it. Dunk might have come with you, and you just wrote it. You know what I mean? So,
I don't think he was going to go with him in any case. But you're right. Like if he had a chance of doing it, he was ruined. Because Dunk was like, I am running the opposite way from the nobility, no matter what. But you're right. But Lionel could have made it more tempting, but he wasn't tempted. The way he sold it, it wasn't really being sold at all. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. Let's talk about House Fossaway, because there's 2 characters here and a whole new branch, pun intended. House Fossaway, yeah, I love the idea of Dunk and Egg kind of like maybe hearing that Lionel's now Lord of Storm's End and maybe things he's doing as a result of that and changes he's making. We're going to hear about New Barrel from afar. It doesn't exist yet. We know it will soon. This is a cadet branch, and that's not a yearly affair. You don't see new houses pop up that often, cadet branches or otherwise, nor do you see like new castles built very often. It's pretty rare. Like Westeros is very set. You know what I mean? Like not a lot of change at the top like that. Not a lot of new castles coming and going, right? That's a very rare thing. Shout out to Nina, who caught that Edward Ashley, which is the actor for Stefan Fossaway, actually knew his house words. There's a little behind the scenes thing, which we actually said a taste for glory, which is the Red Apple Fossaway's house words, a taste of glory. Yeah. Which is pretty appropriate for how he acted and spoke and all that. And how's he feeling now, though, that he had a shot at glory instead. He's famous for losing to his cousin. Oh, well, too bad for him.
A guy like that, I think he's still feling fine.
Yeah,
he can lie to himself easily.
Yeah, he's
he can tell the story his own way.
And he's the heir to Cider Hall. His life is going to be just fine. Yeah. And it's a little bit of a parallel to Dunk himself, right? Like Stefan promised to knight Raymond one day, And ultimately, that didn't happen. Raymond got knighted by somebody else. Not a parallel in that there's any doubt in this case. We saw it happen, but still, there is a little bit of that. And Dunk is not done thinking about Stefan. We may never get this in the show because it's an internal thought. But in the Mystery Knight, Dunk thinks about Stefan's betrayal and how it still like bothers him and haunts him. It continues to be a factor that makes him mistrustful of the nobility. There, I feel like they just, with stuff with Lionel, was a way to expand on that. Like, well, it isn't just this one guy or the Targaryens. It's also the Lord of Storm's End and also all these other characters, even if it's a different reason for disliking him. Lionel stood up for him, so he gets credit for that. He's not this weak, non-true knight that won't stand up, but still, he's like Ashea said, he's still got his flaws. And they're interesting flaws, especially if they're going the direction where it kind of seems like it.
Can
Also,
I speak?
oh yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to say something about Stefan still?
One last thing about Stefan.
Then we'll
yeah.
say Stefan.
Yeah, one last thing about Stefan, which is that he made that prediction. He said the Targaryens, they came here only Fosterways are thousands of years older than them, and I bet we'll be here long after they're gone. Pretty much right. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Targaryens aren't quite gone, but it looks like they will be at the end of A Song of Ice and Fire, or if not completely, then in effect. And the Fosterways are doing just fine. Both branches.
Even if they aren't completely gone, neither are the Fosterways.
Yeah. So now go ahead, Ashea. What did you have to say about the Foster?
Oh, I wanted to bring up, I think it's been one of the most talked about and debated things is Raymond and Rowan together. A lot of people are like, why did Dunk not tell him? And I talked about this before where I said, he's not going to ruin her play to have upward like class mobility, one. But two, it's like, what, are you going to take all the wind out of Raymond's sails here? But this is the thing I think I should tell you guys who are really bothered by this. It's just as possible that Rowan is not pregnant right then. She's just stopped taking moon tea because she probably was taking moon tea with Stefan. I mean, with Manfred.
Yeah.
So like she probably was taking moon tea with Manfred, and she just got Raymond and decided to baby trap him essentially by stopping the moon tea, and she just knows she will get pregnant shortly. If that makes it more palatable to you, I would like to offer you this alternate theory in this trying time. No, a lot of people are very bothered by this. Other people have come to defense of like, even if it's not his birth son, or his daughter, it's he will still love the child. It's been a very spirited debate. I see a lot of arguments on both sides. I think a lot of people are bothered on behalf of Raymond that he would be tricked like this or be raising, someone who's not his kid. And I think you have an answer that you could hopefully feel better about there. Is my take on it.
That's a pretty good take. Yeah, like how would she can't know she's pregnant unless she got pregnant a while back. And why would she be getting pregnant if she's a sex worker taking moon tea, which of course she would be because she's a sex worker. Like why would she doesn't want to get pregnant unless it's to baby trap somebody or something like that. Yeah. So Sean, what do you think?
I guess on that particular topic, I think that
no, just on the Fosterways.
Yeah, the Fosterways in general. I loved them both. Even though Stefan was a little more villainous, I still appreciated his character and the performance and his armor. And same thing I feel with
love that armor.
With Raymond. I think did a really good job, and I think it was another great example of how they've fleshed out something that wasn't quite in the book, but they did it really well without negatively affecting anything else in the book. And I'll also say, one, you got to be careful when you think about how, like, you think Raymond might be the father to this child that is not really his son or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't mean he's not the father. Like, I tell that to anyone who's adopted a baby. You're not really the father.
Yes,
like,
the whole Tywin Tyrion thing.
Take.
Yeah, I agree. I feel strongly about that one too.
I agree with that, except again, people would say those are not people who've been tricked and lied to into it. So that is the difference. Yeah. Why many people took great umbrage. Like a lot of people were more turned off than I think we realize by this decision and by Dunk not telling Raymond. And
I think Dunk also just isn't going to get the whole pregnancy part. He doesn't know how that works. We do. We can go sit here and go, yeah, she probably wasn't. She probably is lying. Now you've presented that theory. The more I think about it, the more I think it's true. Because yeah, like for what, it's just enough time has not passed, for that to have, like, we know that enough time hasn't passed for her to get pregnant from him. Pregnant. That's clearly true. But there's not enough time for her to have set this up.
I mean, she would have had to be pregnant accidentally with Manfred's child from weeks before.
Exactly, which is not very plausible.
Foolish,
right? So I like that. That's why I like the idea a lot.
For that.
Yeah, I also want to point out that this moment we're seeing feels like it might be, or I think people are interpreting it as the next day. I think it is likely several days later.
I think it's a week. I think it's probably a week or so.
Which might, now again, probably not enough time for her to get pregnant and know that she's pregnant. But
definitely not enough time for her to get pregnant. Let's be clear, definitely not enough time. If it's a week, definitely not enough time.
Not enough time to get pregnant.
To get pregnant and know it. There's not enough time. It's enough time to get pregnant. It's not enough time to know it.
Right. It might be enough time for her to have done what she knows will get you pregnant. And that is enough for her to go ahead and say it. Even if she isn't yet, they're probably not going to stop having sex now. They're going to she's going to
exactly. Yeah, she knows. Yeah.
So.
She might know, like, hey, I've had pregnancy scares before. I know I'm fertile. She might have things, but she might be wrong. And she has to come up with a lie to Raymond about how she lost this child and then she never gives him a child. We don't know. She doesn't know. I think she's just making her best play at getting the bag, as it were.
Well, here's the thing. We can also extrapolate that since this is kind of an insert into the timeline, we know this house continues and still exists later, and these are the founders of it. So we kind of have to assume that they did have children. Obviously, it's possible that they didn't and he remarried. But I think this is the safer assumption, that this relationship took off and worked out. Honestly, I'd say that Red/Lady Rowan might be the third or fourth most expanded on character in the season. Like, Lionel might be number one, Raymond might be number two. I've struggled to think who was the third character that got the most new stuff. Like, she went from almost nothing to quite a few lines and in multiple episodes. Plumber is a good candidate.
He did get like a little bit of an extended, bit, and like I feel like he had a little more connection with Dunk. It kind of fell off. I wanted to see him later.
He would be
I was
nominated.
actually disappointed to not see him.
Yeah,
he would be nominated, but I think he had more. It's a smaller percentage increase because he had more in the book.
That's
in the
true.
First place,
yeah,
right? And so.
Red went from no line. That's an infinite increase.
20 to
almost.
40.
Yeah.
Red went from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So instead of doubling, a 10x increase.
Yeah. So mathematically, that argument works even better. Although Sir Arlen is another one that's just really extremely more fleshed out in the book or
Rafe. You could say Rafe.
I agree. Rafe is probably not as fleshed out as these other ones, but compared to the book version, massive increase. Yes, massive increase. Kind of in the same way that Red is, like from almost nothing to just a name to a full character with dialogue and backstory. And again, just to repeat, like for characters like the Targaryens, it wasn't about added stuff. It was just about nailing what George had already written. And I think for the most part, we've said over and over that they pretty much did. Let's talk about the Targaryens, though, because they are a bit of a contrast here in terms of how they're portrayed in the show as a whole, not in terms of individual performances or individual lines or anything like that. The big change was how everybody else looked at them. This is way more explicit in the show. The anti-Targaryen sentiment was way bigger of an undercurrent than it was in the book, kind of at all. Other than Raymond talking about Maekar's disappointing kids, which isn't really an indictment of the whole family, it's just Maekar's kids. In this version, Raymond has a rant. Then he gets part of that rant from Stefan. And then you get people not showing up for the funeral. And you get, which, as Sean said, maybe that was intentional, but it's still maybe kind of, it suggests that possibility or could be part of that. And then you have, some other things like Arian being a little bit worse or other maybe Maekar's bad parenting being a little more explicit, even though they also gave him some positive stuff to make him, like a more conflicted human being, rather than being more of a cold, distant kind of figure, which he's more like Stannis in the books. So I thought that was very interesting that they and I appreciate that. The anti-Targaryen sentiment is important for the plot going forward. It wasn't hugely important for this season, but it's gonna be more important, and that's part of why they made sure to boost it at the end with the blatancy of Lionel saying what he said as a contrast to the kind of undercurrent that's been there all season long. I guess it's not so subtle when Raymond goes on his rant, but other than that, it's generally handled kind of lower key. Y'all have any takes on that aspect of it, or on anything else to do with the Targaryens this season?
I guess I have a counterpoint of sorts, is that certainly the book, the show presented us more anti-Targaryen sentiment than the book did, because the book presented maybe none. I don't remember that being part of the book at all. Haven't read it multiple times, including recently. Maybe there was some undercurrent I didn't pick up on or something. Since it was so prevalent in the show, it makes me wonder if I'd missed something in the book. But I do want to include in that it's easy to misconstrue that, because it could be that, let's just say 10% of the populace has this anti-Targaryen sentiment. But we see it from 2 or 3 prominent figures. And we might interpret that as like, oh, no one likes the Targaryens. Well, that might not be true, again, I'm not saying it is 10%, but I'm suspicious if it's 90%. I think it might be a little more like 50-50 or something like that.
Well said. I want to shout out a interview with Bertie Carvel, who played Baelor, by Marco Spagnoli. He's not a big YouTube channel, but he got a lot of views on this interview. It's really well done. So give him some love. The comment section on this interview is amazing. There's people saying that, oh, they cast Baelor as Baelor. Or this guy needs to narrate an audiobook ASAP, It's just like, no, so you rarely will see a comment section on YouTube just overwhelmingly positive like this, with like nothing negative at all. Come on, it's a YouTube comment section. Like, no, it's actually really overwhelmingly positive. A couple of quotes that he made in that, I don't want to spoil it for y'all, but like one line that he said that really stood out to me is, he said, actors fear that we'll see through them. Or actors fear that viewers will see through them. And he says, which is a silly thing to think, because everybody knows you're an actor. It's like, you don't think you're a real person. This isn't actual footage. This isn't, Highlander isn't a documentary and the events happened in real time kind of situation. And he also seemed to really understand Baelor in a very deep way, like his dilemma. The dilemma that Baelor faces is his family versus doing the right thing. It's this character with no power versus him who has a lot of power and has the weight of decision falls to him. The intersection of Baelor and Dunk's influences. How Dunk, this kind of nobody, influences the most powerful person there, the second most powerful person in the entire realm. That is a great way to show the power of the common people, or how power can flow the other direction sometimes when the circumstances are just the way they are. So yeah, I didn't say it as well as Bertie Carvel did, but so I recommend that interview as well.
The guy that did that interview, Marco Spagnoli, where did he go to high school? Is it Ridgemont High? Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to do some extra digging there. So. Friends and listeners and fellow Westorians, we are here at the end of a season, of course. This is a good time for you all to join us on Patreon, because we're about to do our topics moot. We're about to take some of the topics that we discussed here in Dunk and Egg and make them into full episodes, as well as things that don't have a whole lot to do with Dunk and Egg, just a Song of Ice and Fire topics or history topics or theory videos, whatever we happen to be putting up there, and whatever you guys choose and whatever you vote on successfully. So good time to join and participate. It'll be running this month in March into next month, and then we'll be making those episodes the rest of the year. You can go to our website to sign up for that, or to support the show in a number of different ways, like shopping through our Amazon links. A good suggestion I have is the graphic novel for the Hedge Knight. Really great art. Provides yet another way of looking at this story that's a little somewhere kind of falls between the written word and the TV show, because you have images, but you get expressions and visuals, but, of course they're not moving and there's no sound. I don't have to explain how that works, really.
Lighting and stuff like that, you don't get it, but
yeah, exactly. So but it is kind of, I think saying it falls in between is a reasonable way of putting it. Also, the audiobook is extremely good. It's read by Harry Lloyd, who is Viserys in Game of Thrones. He's a really fantastic narrator. Surprisingly good with, well, maybe not surprisingly, but he does a lot of voices really well. It isn't just his, soothing British accent.
Can I say that when I first listened, I was suspicious because I didn't like Viserys. But to me, Harry Lloyd isn't Viserys anymore. He's the voice of Duncan Egg. He's
nice.
Incredible. Like I've said it many times. It's among my favorite pieces of media of any kind. Book, album, show, whatever. It's Yeah,
I would say Duncan Egg is special in one way to me in that, it has the amazing audiobook narration, which is, uncommon, I suppose, to get like an actor from the show doing a other, book related to it. I mean, Ian Glenn has done it as well for the Rogue Prince, Princess and the Queen stuff, right? But the other thing is that, it has the graphic novel by Mike Miller, which has some really cool art. My personal favorite is that the Night of the Seven Kingdoms books are illustrated by Gary Gianni, who is just like a master at his craft and so talented. He's done other art for the series, including the calendars. And so like you can't go wrong. You know what I mean? Like you get like a real immersive experience no matter what medium, whether it's the regular old textbook, you get art throughout it, you read the graphic novel, you get even more art, you listen to the audiobook, you get to listen to Harry Lloyd do these voices. Pretty cool.
Can I give a little shout out to Jordan Rannells, a friend of the podcast, who made music to accompany the Duncan Egg audiobook. And he also did the same thing for Lord of the Rings. So.
That's right. Good shout out there, Sean. I appreciate Jordan's work. And of course, I want to give another shout out to Ashaya's tour shirts. She has done actually two. Is it two, right? You did one for Hedge, one for House of the Dragon, and one for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. The Night of the Seven Kingdoms tour shirt has all the different spots that we know of that Duncan Egg will visit. So this is a great time to get in. The journey is just beginning. Season 1 was such a success. Good time to get your shirt and have that memorabilia for the long run. Yeah,
you can get the shirts at our Threadless store, but you can also go to historyofwesteros.com/merch-hub to see those shirts and a whole bunch of other things that we've picked out that are cool related to the fandom. Some we get affiliate kickbacks for, some we don't. I just think they're cool.
Yeah, that's right. We don't. We a lot of those links aren't.
Anything
don't make
for
us money. We don't
make nothing. I just want to share them with you guys, just to be clear. But it has our tour shirts embedded there as well.
A couple questions, more than a couple questions from you all. We got a nice question section here. Let's tackle that. Connor McDonald says, Renly, there's a bit of Renly to Brienne versus Lionel to Dunk parallels. You got some different approach to a person that everyone else is treating differently. Like Brienne is treated differently by Renly than just about anybody else. Nobody treats Brienne the way Renly did. Almost nobody respected her. That's maybe putting it mildly. A lot of people mocked her, like to her face, behind her back. Both. They did these games, these cruel games to her. Renly was not a part of any of that. He was friendly towards her. He was respectful. There's kind of a parallel here. I think that's a good catch because Lionel saw something in Dunk that pretty much no other noble did, even though he has maybe his own angle to it. Well, Renly probably did too. We just don't get it's just not as explicit. We don't ever find out what that was, but like he wants Tarth on his side. Maybe it's just pure pragmatism. He's like, yeah, of course she can fight. Like, why wouldn't I want her on my side? You guys are weird for making fun of her. Because she could clearly fight and she wants to defend me. Like, what's wrong with that, y'all? Let's, we get Tarth too? Like, why? Let's do this. So, yeah.
You would have a different perspective on masculinity too, kind of
that's a good point.
And,
Renly himself, not the standard masculine orientation there. So, Lionel, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, basic respect and merit and caring more about who they are than their station. Of course, that means more for Dunk because he's actually lowborn, whereas Brienne is highborn, despite how she's treated. A kind of a common theory that gets thrown around in the fandom is, could Dunk be cold hands? I don't see how that could be possible, just based on sheer physicality. Dunk in the book is 6'11". There is nothing about cold hands that suggests he's really tall. He is described as gaunt and thin. There's nothing that says he's tall. And he would be very tall if he was Dunk. Like, that's 6'11". This isn't Peter Claffey 6'5". This is book Dunk 6'11". So yeah, I just don't see it. Too tall.
I agree. Too tall. Dunk too tall.
I do agree, but I will offer a counterpoint that he may have shrunk in his zombieism or whatever. He might have lost. And I think he's usually on a horse. And his
an elk.
An elk. Disguised
on an elk, which is, largish. But yeah.
Yeah,
it's not. He's not said he's not tall, but I mean, he would have to shrink a lot to not be tall.
To not be worth mentioning.
Again,
I
don't.
Especially considering
it's
related to like Hodors that you might think he'd be like a man almost as tall as Hodor. You might say something about that, right?
Yeah, he would catch on to that, I think. So I'm down on that one, but I do think that we should all acknowledge Sir Duck. Duck is the parallel to young Griff's first Kingsguard. He's the parallel. Young Griff even wears a straw hat. And his eyes are described similarly as
Duckfield,
so blue, they're almost purple.
To be clear.
What's that?
Duck is Duckfield, Raleigh Duckfield. Just for
Sir
those
Raleigh
who are
Duckfield,
wondering.
exactly, yes.
Maybe hard to
also
search.
Sound similar.
Yes, it's one letter off, yeah. Sir Duck. Can't miss that once you hear it.
And not only similar in sound, but in, I don't know how to say this, lack of dignity or whatever. You know what I mean? Not. It doesn't sound like some great warrior. Duck? What? Who?
Neither Duck nor Dunk sound like a great warrior. It's true. So a couple of comments on Sir Arlen here, specifically his send-off. Jim Martin, one of our patrons, pointed out that it's a parallel to Fast and the Furious because in when Paul Walker died in real life, he's one of the main actors in that movie's franchise, which is up to 11 films now? Jeez. So he died in real life in a car accident, pretty tragically. And they showed this at the end of one of the movies. I'm not a Fast and Furious guy. I don't know which one it was, but it was above shot where they're driving down the highway and then the Paul Walker car veers off to the left. Just like this. But it's not a reference to Fast and the Furious. Both of these are a reference to what's called the Missing Man Memorial. It is a U.S. military procession or tradition that, as far as we know, it began in World War I. It's a flyover thing. That's why it's not, you might have guessed it was from something much older, from other military, because the U.S. military, historically speaking, isn't particularly old. But it's a planes thing, which those haven't been around that long, as historically speaking, as a military thing. So yeah, the idea is that you fly a formation with one, clearly a missing one. You have 3 or 4 planes and you've got a clear gap, which is meant to represent the missing person, the person that just died, the person that you're giving a send-off to. In addition to that, there were older versions of it where you would have a riderless horse in a procession. Like Abraham Lincoln was given a riderless horse procession. You even turn the saddle around for that. So these are various types of memorials that happen in the real world. But I think the flyover one, the military, the Missing Man Memorial is pretty clearly the closest one, if not the exact intent. Now, Kimber LaFay, another listener who wrote in, wants to know if maybe there's also a little bit of a Dothraki thing going on there. He rode off into a field, which is a little Dothraki sea-ish.
The Great Grass Sea.
The Great Grass Sea-ish, right? You can see that. And he was singing that Dothraki. Obviously, that would mean nothing without the Dothraki dirge, but he sang a Dothraki dirge. So there's definitely some connection to him. Maybe he just did some cell sorting, some hedge knighting out in Essos, because it certainly wouldn't have been in Westeros.
Like a Dothraki too. He's always felt a certain kinship to them for that.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
No, really. Yeah, really. He has a horse. He has a penis like a horse, so he's no.
It is another, I don't know, piece of his character that was kind of brought forth is, sleeping under the stars. He doesn't want to be in a castle and Dunk up not to fire for that either.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I missed that part. You're right. That is a very Dothraki thing. Yeah. And also just the emphasis on the difference between, one of the biggest differences between a hedge knight and some other regular commoners, having a horse. You gotta have a horse. That's you're one step up if you have a horse, even if you're not actually a knight. So the whole Plumber thing, coming back to Plumber briefly, we predicted that maybe, because we couldn't see where that was going, the whole setup for cheating in the tournament, we couldn't see where that was going because it's not in the book, but it is in a later book with the Mystery Knight. We figured maybe that was just setting that up, this concept, could go farther with it later. And it does appear that's what it was, because it didn't have any follow-up. Plumber didn't appear again, even in the background. So I don't have another take on that.
Can I say I would rather than cheating, I'd rather say chicanery. Both
Chicanery is a good word for it, yes.
Yeah, it's not quite cheating. You know what I mean? It was at least, I don't know. You might have to define cheating, but it's definitely chicanery.
It's not cheating.
And also, I just want to make my Better Call Saul reference. So.
Yeah, it's not cheating in the tournament so much as is cheating the bookies.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you're not actually... Yeah, I guess that would be maybe a more accurate way of putting it. And everybody is going to care less about cheating bookies than just about anybody else.
I remember when it happened being very suspicious. That like, oh, I don't know where they're going with this. This is a hint of something that happened in the third book, and they seem to be sticking to the books pretty well. And I don't know, I was concerned, I would say. But I settled myself by deciding, this is probably a red herring. They're leading us to wonder what's going to happen in a tournament. There's not going to be a tournament, And we kind of know that for reading the books, but most audiences aren't going to know that. And I think that was a good way. And it also does set up something that will happen in the future. So a combination of red herring and foreshadowing.
It's kind of funny to think about that, by the way. It's like if the stakes hadn't gotten massively raised for Dunk, he would have just entered the tournament and lost, and that would have been it. He's like, oh, well, I lost everything. I have nothing.
Or
now.
One. He was...
I don't know about that. Like look how badly he lost to Arian in the first tilt. Like he has no experience. Like he wasn't going to beat all these people. Just like Lionel said, no, you have no chance. You have no experience with this.
I think he beats the first guy because he throws it, and then loses the second one, but breaks even. As far as
because of the chicanery. Oh, sure. Because I'm just saying without the chicanery part.
If he didn't take part in it, yeah.
The chicanery would never have happened.
Right, yeah. He probably does just lose in the first round, lose his horse, and can't buy it back. And
might be badly wounded on top of it. Well, maybe not, because it's attorney lances, but he might be hurt. Yeah, anyway.
Still, you fall off your horse and break your leg or something.
Yeah, you're right. That could happen. Yeah. It's dangerous. It's dangerous business.
It's not like you die or you're perfect. There's a lot of...
There is no middle ground. When you play the game of jousts, okay. Super chat from Hey Dom Tartaglia. Shout out to the Folkwise podcast. Check that out on Twitch. Season will wrap up. Question for Sean. Is there anyone on the show who is attractive as Fabian Frankel is? Fabian. I said Fabian. Fabian Frankel as Kristen Cole. Well.
No. Next question. What else?
Well, who's the best in A Night of the Seven
Who's the closest?
Kingdoms? Who's the closest?
Who
catches your eye?
Dunk.
No.
Okay, good.
Fair,
good answer. Dunk
okay.
the hunk.
David Fox 4548 says, favorite moment was Stefan's first appearance where Dunk is asked about his sword. He says, it's mine by rights. And Stefan says, that's an odd thing to say. That was hilarious.
Yeah. That might be the shout out. That was one of the funnier lines that wasn't in the novella.
And it was one of the first comedic lines in the book too, or in the show too, that wasn't there too. Like, because the first comedic lines in the show are straight from the novel. In terms of like Egg's comments, like your belt's made of rope, and you look like you need a squire more than most. But I think this is the first added comedic line of all of them, and you're right to shout that out. David Fox and Ashea is such a funny line. I definitely highlighted that one at the time. I thought it was so funny. Etazin Game says, I also took Egg looking so adoringly like to Dunk during the mimicking scene as him being so happy to have someone make fun of him to his face in a fun way, rather than like, I suppose what you're getting at here is Arian would mock him and mean it.
Yeah, or no one would say anything about him, which it's unusual for a prince to have anyone mock him at all, except for, you're right, his older brother, who's cruel.
He likes it. Yeah, he kind of likes being normal in that sense. He wants to be more normal that way. That's great. That's a very good take. I really appreciate that. Yeah, because sometimes the class angles to some of the stuff we miss because we're more tuned in, maybe most of us are more keyed into Dunk's angle here, not only because he's the POV, but because we understand. We're all a little bit closer to that, most of us are, than to royalty, I think.
But no, Egg does look at him like so lovingly and happy. It's like he just like looks so happy in that moment.
And just the way, and in that same moment, Dunk, or like a minute before that, when when Egg makes that point about, oh, you've already married the most beautiful daughter, right, sir? The way Peter Claffey looks down and smiles, it's the look that a parent gets when they're extremely proud of their kid. Like, oh, my kid just said something that I'm so happy that those words left their mouth.
Kind of a kid say the darndest things moment too, in a little bit of a way.
But
right?
But the like happy, like the best. Yeah, like boy, this kid is just pure of heart, isn't he?
And I want to add a little to this too, because I am thinking about it now that you got to be paying attention to Egg to have that kind of banter. You have to kind of made some observations about him and care to point it out. And B, which again, probably in the past, anyone that ever did that, it was in a negative way. And or mean, cruel way,
and that's
right?
why we loved the breakdown of Three-Fingered Alice so much, because Dunk didn't actually have a whole lot to add to that conversation, but he was willing to go through it for Egg, who was like, Egg's brothers would have been like, I don't care, like, who gives a crap, like, shut up, you know, they would be not interested in the topic at all, and they would probably just shut him down or care.
Might have entertained it, and that might be one of the people that Egg has managed to have any kind of person who brings that out in him. Daron. I think Daron might have a little bit.
And Aemon would have before he was out of the picture. Certainly Aemon would have,
But my quick follow-up thing is that Egg is... Dunk is okay with Egg doing it back.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, you know, if Arryn belittled Egg in some way and Egg came back at Arryn would probably literally physically assault him, right? But Egg was able to... Dunk was willing and able to play along and go back and forth. He can dish it out and he can take it or whatever. You know?
Yeah, at times Dunk is fatherly, at times he's older brotherly, and it's fun to see like how that plays out in different circumstances. Taz in Games again says, thank you for a wonderful season of live stream breakdowns. Well, appreciate that. We hope you all have enjoyed our run through, and of course we've got plenty more to come content wise. Stannis Baratheon 3356 says, taking into account every war since the conquest, were the Targaryens a net positive to Westeros? Less smaller wars, but when the wars did happen, they were much bigger. That is an interesting topic that spans lots of real world scenarios as well. Yeah, what is better? Like, what's more moral? Would you rather have a lot of small wars or just every one far rarer wars that span the entire continent? It's a really tough question to answer with confidence, because without like having more data, like how many people die, how many people suffer, like if you could make those count those numbers, it might be easier to reduce it to that.
And they have the monkey wrench here of that the Targaryens ultimate, if the goal is for them to defend against the ultimate war, then it just becomes way more complicated than we could compare to in our real world, right? There's nothing really quite like that. I guess maybe if someone was going to take control of the earth to stop climate change, right? Like to stop like
nuclear war.
Yeah, something like that. Someone's just like, I'm going to rule with an iron fist, but this problem is not going to happen. I don't know, right? Like,
yeah, that's tough.
It's hard to compare.
There is another variable to consider here, by the way, because there's, in the spans of time when there's not war under the Targaryens, there's also this other added value of stability and infrastructure in general, like the King's Road. Like everyone's lives become better when not only is there not war, but there's more communication and trade and intermixing of cultures and intermarriages of family. All these other things have an additional cohesive, stabilizing effect that gives extra value beyond just not war. So,
well said. Greer Gladney 4553 says, I don't like what the ending implies about Egg. I assume you mean that the dishonesty, the deception, maybe there's more implied for later, and maybe that's just a mark against him.
I'll say we watched with a lot of casuals, and a lot of people were like, of course he did that, like that little rascal. Like my mom and stepdad were like, of course he took the ring and lied about it. That's just like him. So
and we have to remember how old he is. Like this isn't necessarily who he's going to be as an adult. I mean, there are dark hints as to what he might become as an adult, but I'm not sure that they're leaning into him becoming some big deceiver. But but it's still like a change from the book that I can understand someone not liking, because, well, I like the original ending for other reasons, but this ties into it, certainly.
Also, I gotta say, think of the reasons that educated grown adults lie for, like to just earn more money or have sex or something like that. Egg's lying so that he can get away from his abusive brother. You know what I mean?
It's a good reason, right? Yeah. That's a good reason. Koivan Ozzy.
Assuming he's even lying. I guess you did say it's implied.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
I still out that Egg just wasn't going along with some detailed plan Maker had, not that he's straight up lying.
Koivan Ozzy 1644. Shout out, Koi. How's it going, my man? He says, wish we got bald Danny on screen. It would help show only folks see the Dany to Egg parallels. Yeah, they should have had Dany be bald. I agree with that. That's the butterfly effect. They don't think about these effects as much as this is why we appreciate how tightly they're trying to keep this show to the books, to what was written. Because of things like this, they don't necessarily know what they're changing. They don't always know that they're creating a butterfly effect when they do it. It doesn't necessarily seem like it's that big a deal, to not have her hair burn, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense. Of course, her skin not burning doesn't make sense either if you're going to look at it that way. So, but this is why you keep things the way George wrote them, even when they seem small. Because
a number of people have had visions and prophecies and dreams about a bald-headed person starting to you see, like, it has a butterfly effect.
Yes, a dragonfly effect. Stannis Baratheon 3356 says, at the end of the fight, you guys feel Aerion saluted Dunk with that pound to the chest. I have a slightly different take on that pound to the chest. I don't think it was a salute. I think it was Dunk was waiting for him to be ready. He wasn't going to just attack him before he grabbed his sword. He was being honorable about it, and Aerion was signaling that he was ready. Because Dunk clearly waited. Dunk stopped after he grabbed his sword, approached him, and stopped. Aerion didn't even have his sword in hand. He went to a knee and picked up his sword. Dunk did not approach him during that. He could have just launched himself when Aerion was on one knee.
He legally could have, right? Like, yeah. It would have been not honorable, but within the rules.
Yeah, so Dunk, I think that was just a shared honor moment rather than Aerion saluting him. I think it was like, yeah, okay, go ahead, let's go.
I don't know if it was shared honor, because I think Aerion would have done it. In fact, Aerion did in the books. He yielded and then went for his mace. So,
yep. What's funny is this a quick terminology thing. It's the people are sometimes call it a mace or that's a flail, y'all. That's a flail.
I misspoke. Yeah, not mace. Sorry. Yeah,
it's a
Morning
flail.
Star. I think a Morning Star and a flail are.
No. Morning Star is not. The Morning Star is the spiked ball itself.
Isn't that what Aerion had?
The spiked ball is on a chain. On a chain,
flail is the entire weapon. The Morning Star.
Yeah, it's like saying a sword has a blade. It also has a hilt and a cross guard, but it's the whole thing makes it up. Anyway.
But you would also often say he picked up his blade and it would use it synonymously as swords.
Yes.
But
yeah, that's true. Blade is a little more ubiquitous, but you're right. And I'm not if people say mace, people know what you mean when you say that, so it's whatever. Yeah.
The mace is specifically different. It's just one thing without the chain
right.
The end, and that would be like saying he picked up his blade and you're talking about the lance. No, those are two different.
Or like a subtle difference between a spear and a lance, which a spear can be used like a lance, but technically it's a little different, and a flail. There's various types of flails, and flails exist in the first place because they were a farming implement, like so many other weapons. They started as farming implements, and a mace can be spiked or it can be flanged. There's all sorts of options.
Yeah. A value of a flail, by the way, it's more difficult to block.
Oh yeah.
If you're swinging it and someone blocks with their sword, it hits the chain, but the ball in the end still comes down and smashes you in the face or whatever.
It's a very crappy defensive weapon is the problem. You can't parry at all with one of those.
No blocking.
You cannot, That's the downside of it. Yeah, I watched I watched a video on that recently because it was Scala Gladiatoria who we posted a few videos of theirs on Facebook in our group there. He is he has a doctorate in medieval weaponry, so he really knows his stuff, and they run through all these tests and showing how these things work, and he loved Knight of Seven Kingdoms and goes into detail about things like that. So a good thing to check out if you all are interested. Jillsville sends a super chat. Thanks for that. No question attached. Birdie Perch says, hey, regarding Cold Hand's height, my grandma used to be taller than at my adult height, and now she's not. She maybe lost 3 whole inches, and we're talking maybe 100 years. So maybe, maybe someone could lose 9 inches in 100 years of being dead.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay.
That's not something that we have data on.
That's a good point. We don't know how a body breaks down.
And, if you're 5'6" and lose 3 inches, percentage-wise, if you're 7 foot, you might lose 6 inches. And
yeah.
Still, that would make you 6'6", which
he'd still be very tall.
I think if Martin if Martin intended that to be Dunk, he would have included some description, some
height or something else, some other clue. Like a turn of a phrase, something like that. Something that
I think this is
Easter
a good
egg.
example of something that's very difficult to disprove. But I don't think there's really enough evidence there to be considering it. You found a thing that is it's possible some kangaroos wear hats. How could you prove that they don't? But probably no one's ever seen it. Like, it probably, you know what I mean? Like,
you don't have a picture of every kangaroo ever, so you can't prove that they don't.
Some kangaroos do wear hats,
even if you
Sean.
did,
I can guarantee you.
Picture,
I guarantee you, there are kangaroos that have worn hats.
Well, yeah,
because humans put it on them.
Analogy, but hopefully,
no, we're gonna hold you to that, Sean. Nope, we're calling you Kangaroo Hat Man from now on.
Anytime someone sees a kangaroo with a hat, send me a picture.
I'm just picturing Roger Jr. from Tekken, who is a kangaroo who would probably wear a hat. So.
Darius read it before, says, the riderless horse goes back for centuries. The procession of mourners with the burial wagon was led by the lost person's unridden horse. Yeah, that part of it, we have to assume, wouldn't just be an American thing, especially if it's a horse tradition. Yeah, that would be weird. The plain one, that does fit because it's plains. But yeah, that I'm sure there's other similar varieties of mourning. I mean, people honoring the dead is one of the oldest human things there is, right? Or even Neanderthals did that. It goes beyond humans even some animals do that, like elephants,
Elephants, yeah.
Let's discuss some other features of the adaptation. In other words, things that stood out on the screen or on the TV in general, things that you can't do as a book, things that were the strength of the medium. A phrase that I've used a lot this season. Like acting, the power of acting is just greater than what the written word can pull off. Even George's writings, can't match what a person can do with their face when they're really good at it. Or music, like George can't write words that do what music does to us. No one can. I will repeat that the soundtrack is by Dan Romer, and it's out. I love the way they set us up with that use of the Game of Thrones theme. I know a lot of people didn't appreciate the shitting on the original theme. That's not really what they were trying to do. It was more of a joke, and it was like, oh, how Dunk is realizing what he's up against. He's like, oh, excited, and then he's like, what am I doing? Anxiety. My guts are turning to water. A lot of people didn't quite take it that way.
By the way, real trait of Peter Claffey, he does have anxiety that causes him to, have bowel and vomit issues. That type of thing. He's vomiting when he's anxious and stuff like that.
And he did the vomit scene too, so we got both of those. It did come out of both ends here, but then they did it so seriously and meaningfully with Baelor when he rode out. That's part of why I love that scene so much. I highlighted Baelor's scene as one of my favorite, or Arrival joining Dunk as one of my favorites, and I didn't even mention that the added music did so much for that. And I think it's part of why. That's something that none of us necessarily saw coming. We knew that was going to be a big moment, but how are they going to make this moment so big? That was a thing they added that was brilliant and perfect and worked really well.
They said that they tried a lot of other songs in the editing room before they hit on, like, it wasn't conceived of being the Game of Thrones theme song for that. They tried other things. And then they finally realized that's what they needed.
Nice. That worked out. Happy accident there. And then also we have these other songs. There was that light song, the Rainbow Connection-y song, the one that sounded kind of like the Rainbow Connection. And there's all the way to the haunting music and the egg hair regrowth Aryan scene. That was really chilling and kind of, just really chilling. That says it all. And then the exotic and curious Dothraki dirge. Like, that was pretty clever and unexpected and fits into the whole, schema of music that they use this season. And the sad music at the outro, like that, you said it yourself, Sean, that scene brought you to tears. Was the music a big part of that? Or do you think it would have hit nearly as hard without that? I mean, it's hard to separate it like that, but I feel like it still would have hit pretty hard. Yeah. And also it'd be weird if there was no music. Like, who has a scene like that with no music,
Well, I was going to point out, that's another thing that you could do with film that you can't do with a book, is the removal of music. If things are kind of swollen and intense and loud, and suddenly you take all that away, that's another
great point.
Great with film, yeah.
That more in a second too, because that comes up a lot with the sound design, how they did certain other scenes to change the tone or change the perspective of what's happening in the moment. Shay, you added some of these other notes here about the music, and I also wanted to shout out the Western vibe. A lot of the music had a Western vibe to it, which we thought was we commented on that early in the season, how appropriate that was. And then the music in episode 6 was particularly different. Not different, but they did a few things differently.
Especially anachronistic. And I want you guys to realize that the music in all the shows is anachronistic. Like, that's not what they would listen to in the world. Like they
it's
don't
more
have that same instrument.
blatantly anachronistic, but it's none of it's all of that, right? Like symphonies didn't exist then; they didn't have violins and viola.
Yeah, exactly. So like anyone who's saying that, I'm like, okay, but calm down now. Like it's all is. It all is. None of it can actually be fully in world.
Like I prefer it to feel more authentic, but I totally acknowledge your point. Like it's not.
Yeah, to me, I never really thought about the music in the show as being authentic to the show. They even have like real world bands come in and perform in Game of Thrones. So, anyways, to that point, they ended it with 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford, which is really this kind of working class anthem, and it speaks to the theme in the show of class disparity very well, very effectively, I think. So I loved that. I also really liked, and I brought this up at the time, the opener to episode 6 is a jazz song. It's called Alone Together by Kenny Dorham. And like the title, that's the scene with Lionel and Dunk. And I thought even the title was resonant, but really just the jazzy music was so well put for comedic effect. And so, yeah, I thought the use of so-called anachronistic songs were to great effect. I would like them to keep going with it. So a lot of you, I've heard you in the comments, hated it. One of my favorite things in the show. Funny how that works, right?
Yeah.
A couple points. I've observed that even outside of this, even when it isn't necessarily anachronistic, in the Alien Earth series, each episode ended with I don't know, a noteworthy song. Most of them in the realm of like metal or grunge or whatever, you know. And a lot of people hated it. And I'm like, what? Why? I'm like baffled. To each their own. I don't want to judge too hard, but I would be more understanding if they stuck in some, 90s song into Game of Thrones or whatever. But I felt like something that's even in our world old, 100 years close probably, is fine. I also want to, this is a little anecdote, but just an amazing coincidence. So Mad Men is probably my biggest hole. I think I've seen every major prestige drama TV show. I've made a point of watching all the greatest, best, most popular, acclaimed, whatever stuff. And I haven't seen Mad Men. I'm watching that.
And it's in it.
I could have been a little slower or quicker as I moved through it, but I just happened to be, I think season 3, episode 3 was my next episode up Tuesday after we had watched and did our video. And in this episode, it's a minor plot thread. It's not really a spoiler, but Don didn't have a contract with the company he's working for, and there's pressure on him to do it. And so he does, and he, signs this contract. And in the closing song is 16. So I was like, what are the freaking chances of me hearing that song?
It's also
that's wild
in a 2-day span. Yeah.
It's also featured in I Love Lucy. Notably.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I do remember that Mad Men. I think maybe that's where I first heard the song even. But yeah, I think it's a really good song, a really effective song and meaningful. It even says the word St. Peter in it. Come on. And we got Peter Claffey.
So pivoting to a related topic, sound design, which I mentioned a little while ago, we talk about, there's a lot that goes into these things, and sometimes it's more subtle than the music a lot of times. The music is often very prominent. It takes up a lot of space in our focus. It's hard to not notice it. But sound design is a big part of a lot of these shows that have a lot of things going on outdoors with lots of people in the background. You got horses, you got crowd noise, you got the sound of mud, you have the sound of... But then they did some creative things, like being inside Dunk's helm and hearing his breathing. And that's like more like, okay, you're not going to not notice that because it's just so prominent and frontal and sudden. Or Raymond's knighting, where Lionel his lips aren't moving, but this voiceover is happening, and it's his voice, and it's like, ooh, they're doing something cool here. This is artsy, and as I pointed out at the time, having Lionel do it, the least serious person there doing, and he's taking it seriously. The combination of that audio effect and the implication of it being Lionel of all people was just hit. Really, that was great, and then the sound design added a lot to that.
That overall design also helped interject Arlen's little shrug too, Yeah.
Great point. Yeah. And then we have things like the Tanzel's voiceover, her narration that rings in his head later when he's at the ruined puppet site, kind of reflecting on it, looking at the head of Florian, and he's hearing her voice and hearing the night, being a fool, and he's hearing how he's being a fool, and he's like, "Yep, I'm a fool," and so that was very effective too. So maybe that isn't sound design so much as just a way of using narration. But I feel like this is a good enough time, good as place as any to bring that up. Pivoting to visuals and costumes. Ashaya has some images for us to go through here as we're talking about the ears. Look at this cool ass Kingsguard armor. Now, jumping ahead a little bit, one of the things I think they did kind of subtly that we talked about at the time is this looks kind of sinister, I think. Maybe some of you will disagree, but that helmet looks sinister, and I think this is a reflection of the anti-Targaryen sentiment. These guys look kind of villainous, even though they're supposed to be good guys, and they're defending bad guys, even though they might be honorable and noble and have gotten into it for reasons of duty. There's a little bit of like Sir Arthur Dayne, maybe Barristan Selmy here, where they're very honorable, legendary knights who are well regarded, but like they're kind of in service to crappy people. And so we're seeing that reflected here. And that moment was really brought out, I think, when there was that mini riot after Aerion did his thing to Harding and the crowd reacted in a way that they didn't react in the novel. They got pretty mad. That's another way they showed the anti-Targaryen sentiment. So I think this fits into that, showing that even these Kingsguard, who are ostensibly good people, are being used not in a good way because of the people that they're defending, who they're working for.
Yeah, I thought it was very effective costume design. They looked very intimidating and scary.
People said they look like snow troopers from Star Wars, because at first I said Imperial Guard, but I think the snow troopers angle might even be better. It might be closer, or some mashup of those two. Either way, it looks awesome. Like the spike on the helmet and the detail on the helm, like there's a lot of grooving and lines in there. It's
a real Targaryen Kingsguard design. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the way that it has kind of like winged, webbed, I don't know, wings on their armor. It looks like, you see.
Yeah.
All these little effects that to me make them really very Targaryen.
Oh yeah, look at the knee there. The wings on the knee.
Exactly.
I didn't catch that wing knee there. That's pretty cool.
It's distinct, and also I think part of what makes it sinister looking, like you said, is when it's all pale white like that, the eye holes look more black.
Good point.
And I think that adds to the sinister look.
And on top of that, when they were deployed with their helmets, the only other time they were deployed with their helmets besides the trial was during that riot. They ride out and they are so white compared to everything else around them because everything is dingy and muddy and they're just pristine. And there's something unearthly about being so muddy in the midst of all that. Yeah, ghosts, yes. And that's why, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, people very often compare the Kingsguard to the others. White Walkers, like there's parallels there. Like they are white shadows. They are swords whose they don't get to make their own decisions. They are in service to a leader that makes all the choices for them, which is kind of like what the undead do. Like the others guide the dead and they don't make any decisions. They're just automatons. The Kingsguard aren't quite that automatomic, but they are. That vibe is there. And we get to see with their masks off, their helmet off, they don't talk like they're sinister or evil. They just kind of seem like kind of normal, maybe a little bit.
Male models, all of them.
Yeah, very handsome, but not bad, not sinister, certainly.
White steel. If you can see their facial expressions
it's blue steel, white steel. Yeah, that's good. I want to go through the other ones real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is from Instagram and social media. We've gotten some glimpses at some of the stuff that I feel the making of should have focused on a little more. And didn't, but you can see actually a better look at the Lannister helm here, which was cool to see. And from behind, a little bit of a better shot from the social media. This is the embroidery that they did for the show. A close-up look at some of the embroidery work. We see they released on social media the Targaryen sigil, House Ashford sigil, which I thought was really well done. How they incorporated that so well into Gwyn Ashford's clothing. When you looked at the details on her stuff, it was suns everywhere. Loved it. Lannister embroidery. and the crowned stag of House Baratheon. A lot of people think this is anachronistic or wrong in the show. It is not. It is not. This is, in fact, the book canon. The show canon is the one that changed it so that they added the crown. Just so you guys know, this is book accurate.
Right on. Good call, Shea. Now, returning a little bit to the anti-Targaryen sentiment, we discussed what was present. We just talked about a lot of things that happened during the season that communicated the anti-Targaryen sentiment. Not trying to rehash that, but I want to go forward with that using the Kingsguard a little bit as a pivot. Opinions will have changed. Things will have gotten worse as a result of Ashford. Aerion, what he did is going to spread the news of that. And it's going to look bad, like what he did and the result. His actions caused the death. Well, at least House Beesbury and House Harding hate the Targaryens if they didn't already. They got a big reason to be mad, like they didn't necessarily have that, especially House Harding. It's even, Beesbury joined because of, family connection, whereas Harding was directly hurt, perhaps permanently. And then he was killed. That's pretty permanent. But who knows how his knee would have healed otherwise? You know what I mean? Like it might never have healed otherwise. So, but here's the other side of it. Oh, go ahead.
Not to say nothing of the horse too.
Yeah, sure.
Even if he had a similar, mentality of Maekar, where the horse is just the tool to be used, and he had no connection to it, but he still may have, right? But also, it's your car. If someone wrecked your car and broke your leg, and then killed you,
and then killed you,
family's not going to be happy.
Yeah, you're right. Like horses are the especially those kind of horses. So these are the sports cars or the high end vehicles of the era. And
your Lamborghini.
Yeah, it's like why and why would you just destroy one of those just because? It's like. Yeah. Oh, a lot of people just like horses in that era because they're a lot of people like cars. It's like, why would you just destroy one just for the hell of it? Like that's just weird and privileged. Like who does that? Like that's a valuable thing. Even despite it also on top of it being an animal that can feel pain. Exactly. But the other side of all this. Is like, this is encouraging the Blackfires aren't popular either. They're not beloved. It's not like people are pining for the Blackfires as an alternative. It's like, they both suck, I think is what we're supposed to get here. Like, who loves Bittersteel? I like him as a character, but people are like, that Bittersteel guy, he's great. Let's follow. Like, we love him. No, they follow him because they respect him, because he's strong and powerful and effective, not because he gives them the warm fuzzies or because he does right by them all the time, or that he's extremely trustworthy. No, they can trust him to do what he's doing because he's so intense and he's going to keep doing that. Like, this guy is driven. We can count on that, and they don't know Daemon's other sons. Some people might have liked Daemon Blackfire. They might have liked his twin sons, but they don't even know the other 5. They don't know who they are. They're like, well, maybe they're like Daemon, but maybe they're not, who knows? So, And when,
also, what they wouldn't have that Daemon would have, the thing that I don't want to go too much advantage, but they all have a sort of ulterior motive.
Yes.
We are behind this guy. When he takes power, we get power. People who have power now lose it, we gain it. And however good a person is, they don't care. It's almost better if he's a bad person because he's more likely to get more power. Right?
You're right. And they're and the whole existence of them, the whole threat they pose to Westeros is, here comes another civil war. And that just is terrifying to a lot of people for good reason. Like this, as long as these guys exist, civil war is a possibility. And on top of that, in a few years, Bittersteel is going to form the Golden Company. Now, in the long term, Bittersteel is going to prove the Golden Company is a different sort of sellsword company. But do you think anyone believed that in year 1? Nah. They're like, a sellsword company, that figures. Those guys, those losers. Of course, they would do that. That's the kind of values they have in the first place. They're, men of low character. Of course, they'd turn sellsword. So this is the kind of thing that will evolve over time, that we get to see a lot of that, which is fun. This is an era that we've talked about quite a lot. We're going to get to see some of this actually play out. All right, here's a little spot we have on the whole concept of dunk and egg as a wolf and cub trope. It's a little different. Like, it definitely fits into that category, but it's missing some of the standard key elements that maybe put it in a subcategory rather than the main category. Taking 2 very popular examples, The Witcher and The Mandalorian, the cub character is in grave danger and constantly hunted. That's not really the case with Egg, is he? It's his identity that they're trying to conceal. It's not like people are hunting him, even if they are because of the signet ring thing. They're not hunting him to kill him, right? He's not in danger in that sense. It's not like they're trying to experiment on Grogu or experiment on Ciri, which in both cases, they're trying to do like Dr. Mengele stuff to these people, to these characters, which is kind of terrifying. So it's a thing you really, really want to avoid. But for Egg, if someone finds out he's actually willing to admit who he is to get out, to facilitate things here and there. So it's very different in that sense. It's more, and it's a little more classic in terms of mentor mentee, except Egg actually teaches Dunk quite a bit too. Dunk actually learns a lot from Egg, and that's kind of a cool pushback on that standard trope.
Yeah, can I say, if you want to read about this trope, it often is called the Lone Wolf and Cub, or Wolf and Cub, because it's named after this old manga called Lone Wolf and Cub. But it's also, if you want to read the TV tropes page, which is a great resource, Badass and Child Duo is the trope it's under. And this is where Dunk, it also kind of is different from this trope, because usually the badass is jaded, strong, like silent, they're sometimes a jerk or a little bit darker, and cynical, and Dunk is not so much that. And so I feel that he kind of inverts this trope in a lot of ways. The child is often female. Rarely ever is the badass a woman. I'd say one of the only real examples I think of immediately is the show Arcane with Jinx and Isha, and it ends in great tragedy. Kind of also inverts
Brienne
it.
Podrick?
Brienne Pod. I mean, he's not a child. He's not a child who's some age between infant and pre. Like, he's not in a dangerous world.
But Podrick is a child.
They're a duo.
He's a teenager. He's like 13. So I think it's.
I would say the Hound and Arya are closer to a badass and child duo, and Ira Parker has compared that they are trying to get that little magic ingredient that maybe like he's talked about what made Game of Thrones so popular, and to him one of them was the relationships, and specifically he always did like Arya and the Hound. But I would not say Brienne and Pod count exactly as that. I'd love to hear your favorite examples of badass and child, or wolf and cub, or however you want to class it. And I'd love to hear more from you guys. I do like hearing about tropes.
C-3PO and R2-D2. Was kidding.
I've got one to throw out, is which I think a lot of people will chime in with, is Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Especially because I mentioned The Mandalorian. It's the same actor.
Yeah.
And she was in Game of Thrones too. She was Lyanna Mormont. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That's a really good one. Now, as for the wolf cub angle here, or the badass and child, this will change a bit, going back to what we just talked about. When the Golden Company and the Blackfires are back as a major power, which they haven't really recovered their power at this point in 209, but after the Great Spring Sickness and the drought and a few more years go by, they're going to be, their threat will loom larger, and that's when maybe Egg's identity might matter a bit more. Like, it might be more important for him to, like, there might be Blackfires out there, Blackfire sympathizers out there that might actually want to capture him, or might intend ill, knowing that there is a reward coming the other way, or at least hoping for a reward coming the other way. But that's the thing that will, play out over the long term. And alongside that, I have a question that doesn't have an answer, but I think is worth pondering: is will Egg continue wandering with Dunk incognito, or will there be a point where everyone just kind of knows that he's there, that he's no longer concealing his identity? Will that happen at some point where he's just Dunk and Egg are wandering the Seven Kingdoms together, but now people know who he is? Does that change the dynamic, or can they keep operating that way? Will they try to operate that way for a while and realize it doesn't work because everybody knows who he is, and it's like, all right, well, Prince Aegon, like, oh, you're here. They can't, it just doesn't work if he's out like that. I don't know, but it has to end at some point. Right?
That's an interesting question. I had never thought about it before, because because they are both so recognizable. Dunk is so big and tall, and Egg, at least right now, is so small with a shaved head. And they're gonna have some noteworthy stories spread about them. There'll probably be an intermediate amount of time. Like when you say, like, everyone will know. Even if everyone doesn't know, even if only 10% of people know, that's enough. Because you go to the castle, there's 30 people in the castle. 3 of them know, they tell the other 30 really quickly, so.
You don't need a signet ring at that point. You're like, no, everybody knows who you are. Just like, look at my eyes. They're purple. Look at him. He's tall. Who do you think we are? Yeah. So
you heard
that's
about the Trial of 7, right? Like, what was that story? Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So they're famous. Yeah. So that's an interesting question. Again, like we said, we don't have an answer to that, but it's a curious one that they'll probably have to tackle at some point.
Can I say a real world thing I discovered? I couldn't help myself when I was looking at the trope stuff.
Please.
Recording. Apparently, there's a real life example cited on TV Tropes. The Soviet War Memorial in Berlin has a statue that kind of essentially has this trope on it. It's a 12-meter tall soldier with a huge sword in hand holding a child on his other hand. And according to the Soviet marshal, the statue commemorates the deeds of Sergeant Maslov, who during the final storm on the center of Berlin risked his life under heavy German machine gun fire to rescue a 3-year-old German girl.
Oh,
anyways,
nice.
It's I was like, real life. I clicked on that. I was like, well, what do they mean real life? Oh, okay.
So I had a question. We were wondering if the missing man moment at the end with Sir Arlen, we were wondering if that was intentionally meant to parallel that, or if it was they had another reason for doing it. Like, actually, maybe it was intentionally like the Fast and Furious one without knowing that it's also a military thing. So I texted T. McKell about that. She just responded, she doesn't know. She said, I can ask. So maybe we'll have an answer for you all later on what that happened. We even thought maybe she was the one who wrote that, but clearly not.
Yeah, because she's American. We're like, well, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe more to come on that. We'll keep researching that one, or keep digging on that one. Turning to fishing. The Egg Arryn fishing bit, and what I mean by that, if you missed it, is Arryn was said to be into fishing by Daeron as a nice mundane way to show that he wasn't always so crazy and cruel. And we also found out earlier, or it was revealed earlier, that Egg is into fishing. So it's kind of like, is that meant to be, they're on the same path? Is that a little kind of a dark hint? So Egg is a Targaryen. If he doesn't go mad later, maybe he will go a little mad, or maybe he will seem to go mad and isn't, and that creates this interesting scenario where people think he's mad, but we all
Right, for the small folk, he must be mad.
Yeah, that's a very straightforward way for it to happen, or for it to, people say that about him. It's not true, but people might believe it. And it could both be true. He might be a little mad and be pro small folk too. They could both be true. It's a little, I don't know, but that seems possible to do both.
Have a smear campaign.
Also, Zach, I was going to say, he could not be mad at all, but people could say that he is. And then once people think he is, see certain things he does. And
and they kind of self-fulfilling. Yeah. And this is something interesting too. We don't know. We're not trying to predict specific symptoms that Egg will have. Rather, I want to acknowledge that this is something that they have to plan for, and George almost certainly already has. George hasn't written, all these stories, but he has an end point in mind. He knows what happened at Summerhall. I'm sure there's a few things not settled on, but he has. This isn't the 5-year gap situation where he's going to have to make a big change to his plan. Well, maybe it is, but this show isn't likely to get lost in the scope of its own scale and size of production like Game of Thrones did.
Well, can I speak to that with some quotes from Ira Parker from interviews that are relevant?
Perfect, yes.
One, as we've talked about before, he has gotten outlines for 12 more stories beyond the 3 we have. And so one, this is from the Hollywood Reporter interview. He said, I would say HBO's plan is for us to do the 3 novellas, and that's it. But I would do 12 of these. I would do 4 now, then 4 more 10 years from now, and then 4 more 10 years after that. Take them all the way through their lives, just like Richard Linklater's Boyhood, he compares it to. Beautiful concept, love it. And then to go on, this is an interview that he did with Polygon. He says, George and I have talked very loosely that if it ever came to that, which is going past season 3, we would just go through and break seasons together. That he has a lot of ideas and we can bounce ideas off of each other. Obviously, I don't want to take him away too long from his day job, but it's amazing how much can be accomplished in a quick amount of time with him and a couple of his favorite authors in the room. We were pretty good for season 1, so I think we could continue that and come up with some good stuff. And I want to note that one of the authors in that writer's summit that they did to break the story was Lev Grossman. As Lev Grossman confirmed on social media, it was cited as a consultant. And God, now I can't remember the other author. A second author. I feel bad that
I forgot too. I want to shout out Lev. I happen to have read a Lev Grossman book just last year, The Bright Sword. It's a great book. It's an Arthurian story that's got some nice twists. It was recommended by our good friend Matteo Barbagalla, who was who ran the Caceres City of Dragons event that we went to 2 years ago. And
yeah, so that was one of the consultants, and so if they going forward, they would have other of George's authors that are available that he likes in the room to help break it, and that's pretty cool to hear about, and I think a good concept, although it's still awfully ambitious. I would say. I would say they should. Yeah, I would say they have to. That's funny. I would say they need to break these stories more in advance. If they're doing that, like they should break many seasons together. But that's for them to deal with.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. But it's I'm sure it looks like we have reasons for optimism. I think they'll figure it out.
Two quick thoughts on that. That the reference to Linklater's Boyhood, he filmed that over like 14 years or something. He was filming this boy grow up, kind of in real life, but kind of in the story he's writing. But so that extended amount of time and talking about. 3 episodes and 10 years later, 3 episodes and 10 years later, 3 episodes. That's 40 years. It reminds me in Bottle Rocket, the Wes Anderson's first movie, when Owen Wilson's character had this little notebook and he was making his 70-year plan. Not like a 5-year plan, a 70-year plan mapped out. So, map it out, George. Map it out, Ira. Do it.
So just returning real quick to the fishing bit, like there's a number of ways they can build on that. Like they can have Egg fishing again, and we can be like, oh, there's the fishing. Don't remind us again. If people maybe didn't catch that, they can show it again. He can be wearing his floppy straw hat when it happens too. Can Dunk can maybe be like, oh, fishing. Because Dunk maybe didn't make that catch that we did. He's Dunk. He's not necessarily going to make catches like that, but it might occur to him later. I had a little section here on flashbacks, future flashbacks. We pretty much covered everything that I have written here, but I want to mention it to give you all an opportunity to make suggestions to us on what you think we might get in terms of flashbacks in the future. Not just season 2, although that's an obvious one to think hardly about, hard on. I can't say this right. Anyway, season 3 as well, the Mystery Night. Imagining what kind of flashbacks they could insert into that story. Yeah. So, we know that we know what Ashea has said, quoted about Ira Parker and Sir Arlen. He won't be in season 2 apparently, but maybe he will be in season 3, maybe 4, who knows? So it's not clear. But one thing that could happen in future seasons is we could get flashbacks of season 1.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
something that maybe people haven't thought about as much, is that we can get flashbacks of this show within it once it goes farther.
1 of things we saw, and 2 of things we didn't see.
Yeah.
Right? Like those are 2 options, and we have seen flashbacks already of things that happen in the show. Because that
we could see a flashback of the conversation Egg and Makar had about meet me in the morning, I'll give you the ring, and da-da-da-da, yeah.
And they'll say, it'll happen right. It's like, you show up with the ring, but if you get there early, you'll see Dunk describe the time he got knighted.
Well, I'd also like to say, I expect we'll see a montage in season 2. Has kind of been my expectation for the best way that they could show the Dorne stuff or flashbacks. Is that told as a flashback? You know what I mean? Like that is a flashback, or is it portrayed to us not as a flashback, but this is what they're doing? You see the distinction, right? Like there is a difference between that.
When we talked about the idea of there might be less flashbacks, but what if a montage that's only, might have like 14 images over 10 seconds, but that's still just one flashback? Or
is that not a flashback at all? If it starts the show out and it's not a flash, you know what I mean?
Consider this too, consider the flashbacks in episode 1. They were like less than a second at a time. It was like, you never beat me unless I deserved it. Bam, bam, bam. Like those were so quick. But that's 3 flashbacks. in like
Or
3
was
seconds.
it one? Maybe it was just one. Yeah.
Well, no, they were all 3 different. I mean, you
They
could
were
count it
different
as a
moments
scene
in
with
time.
multiple,
He
but they
was
were
a different age, a different actor.
Yeah, exactly. Because one was actually Peter Claffey and others were Bamber Todd. Yeah, and they were different locations. So it's like, yeah, that's what I'm like. That's the ultimate extreme of a flashback that's less than a second, and there's several in one moment almost. Whereas you could have Sir Eustace just waxing about the Blackfire Rebellion and have a good 10-minute flashback, maybe.
Well, my question is, I think I could see them playing it straight and just having flashbacks to the Blackfire Rebellion that Eustace is telling. I wonder if there's a way they can do it more comedically, with more clever editing, and maybe people would be disappointed if it perhaps wasn't as bombastic and action-packed, but I wonder if there's room for them to do things different than we're expecting in terms of Eustace telling the story.
Yeah, like maybe when Dunk is imagining Daemon Blackfire fighting Gwaine Corbray, they could just have big smiley faces on their, and they can be dressed as clowns and
not to that extreme, but you do see the point that when he pictures it, he can picture it to be much more like the story being told and not reality. So it's glamorized in this crazy way.
Dunk's POV, he's filtering what Sir Eustace tells him, and he's imagining what he's hearing.
You know what I'm picturing is kind of like I'm picturing kind of like what they do in Drunk History, or it's Florida Man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Eustace is talking and it's coming out of the character's voice. Like
it's a reenactment, not a flashback.
Yeah, a reenactment type of flashback could be a way to go.
Yeah.
And they could save budget because if it's able to look a little cheesier, that could be fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
But of course, we people will complain if we see Daemon Blackfire and Bittersteel and Bloodraven and they don't look as cool as possible. So I don't know. Maybe you gotta know. I don't know. It's tough.
They
anyway.
can look possible, but still speak with Eustace's voice.
Yeah, and then Bloodraven said, and then it's just his voice coming out, right? Like
it's like Bloodraven's actual voice sounds like, I am the hand of the king. You will respect my authority.
Was it Eustace drunk when he was telling the story? I wish I could remember that a little bit.
He's drunk a lot.
He is drunk sometimes. I don't think all of them, but some of them.
Could have a drunk history vibe.
You're right.
Have you watched It's Florida Man, Sean?
Bloodraven, but Bloodraven's voice comes through.
A single episode of It's Florida Man?
I have. I've seen clips. I know what it is.
Well, yeah, one episode I think we get. It's very Drunk History, but has a certain other tone to it, which I think is kind of resonant with this.
Okay, let's have some quotes directly from Ira. We already had a few of them throughout the episode. We had a bunch of them pulled, and a few of them we were able to use during the episode because it came up as to the topic we were discussing. But here's a few others. This first one. Some of us thought there was some clarity, but Ira's gone, pushing back. Actually, George is the one pushing back here, but Ira's the one talking about it. Regarding the question if Dunk was knighted or not, well, here's what Ira Parker had to say, because the interviewer said, looks like you made that clear. Dunk wasn't knighted. And here's Ira's response.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad he said this because it is definitely ambiguous. Crazy interpretation from the interviewer. But okay. It's fascinating to me that that's what you got out of that scene. At that moment, Dunk had never been knighted by Ser Arlen. He says, "Why did you never knight me?" And then Ser Arlen dies, and we think it's over. But then he's back, and as far as we know, the continuation of that scene is, "Boy, go get me my sword." And then he knights him. There is no confirmation, one way or the other, coming out of that scene. That's exactly how Mr. R.R. Martin requested it. It remains ambiguous, and people can decide for themselves. Look, Danny Webb is a fucking magician. I love him so much. He just became Arlen. It could have been no one else in this whole world. He was just pitch perfect all the way up until his death. This whole journey is going to be about what makes a true knight, whether or not you're given the title, or if you have to earn the title even after you're given it. Can you earn it even if you've never been given it? And I mean, like Ira's saying all the right things, and Ira knows Dunk was never knighted, but it has to be ambiguous. It's just...
Yeah, because that's the point, right?
How did you know that? What do you...
Because, the point isn't the title. The point is the deeds. It's the deeds, not the title. That is that's a big message that I think is somewhat straightforward once you get into it, if not from the get-go.
If they ever give a clear answer to that question, it removes the question. He just won't. He just
the mystery is what matters. Yeah.
Maybe in book 9, when Dunk's entered the king, like I could see maybe at some point years in the future of both the story and real life. But at this point in the first book being put on screen, no, wait, this is
too early. Yeah, good point. Yeah. So yeah, I wrote that here too. Is like, yeah, forever. I don't know. Maybe it could be a plot far in the future. But I agree. If it for him to feel right, like he might be unsettled by a thing that a lot of people bring up as a plot point or possible theory is that it's when he goes to join the Kingsguard that he's like, wait, I gotta be knighted. This is too much. I gotta be knighted before I do this. Before it wasn't hurting anybody else. Now I'm like, this is going too far. This is crossing a line that I didn't intend to cross at first. Maybe not though. Maybe not though. Because if they want to keep it ambiguous, then well, yeah. Anyway, so. Here's the next one. Interviewer says, you also have a subtle moment connecting Dunk and Brienne of Tarth. And I love that you not only did that, but also shot at the same location. How did all of that come about? Was that something you'd always wanted to include? Did that come up later? And to be clear, before Shea reads the quote, the same location, meaning the Leaning Trees spot outside of King's Landing where Brienne and Podrick had a walk. We first saw that, I think, with Arya in season 1, but this is the third time we've seen it. In a Game of Thrones show.
That came up later. That actually came up in our reshoots. That was a scene that we had early on that came out for budget reasons, but then went back in due to cutting too deeply. We were looking for the original spot where they did the very first of those walks, but those trees had become a bit of a Belfast landmark and had actually been destroyed a little bit just by all the tourism. And so even the original series had to go, in season 3 or 4, for the Brienne and Pod walk, had to go to a different spot that looked a lot like it and use that because they couldn't use the original. So we went to that one. It just seemed perfect. I loved it when I found out that we could get there and do that. That's exactly the vibe that we were going for. I love that image of the trees touching over the street. That's something that feels very special to me about Dunk and his great-granddaughter, whoever it is, walking along the same road. I think season 1 is a lot about what we pass down to the next generation. We have father to son, we have knight to squire, we have master to apprentice. And so it felt very within our motifs or themes for the season. So yeah, we've been to the one that has been ransacked by tourism. We are some of the tourists that went there.
I got inside one of the trees. Maybe I was part of the problem.
I think so.
Did you nail a penny to it?
Huh? I did not nail a penny to it. No, I did not do that.
Well, that's something.
But yeah, and this is honestly Tyrion's quote that echoes what Ira is saying here. It fits oddly even better because of the connection to the Hedge Knight. He says that we're all puppets dancing on the strings of those who came before us. So obviously the puppet reference is what I'm going for here as a nice commonality, shall we say, as Egg would put it. That's a commonality. You're both gigantic. Yeah. So yeah, we've been, like Shea said, we've been there taking some great pictures. That is a really nice spot. I recommend it to y'all, even though, yeah, the tourism has made it not quite as nice as it used to be.
They better not share awesome where this other spot is.
Yeah, people will ruin that one too. Yeah. So returning briefly to the subject of the boot, there's been a couple of different things that Ira said about it. He's sort of said they haven't decided how to resolve it, but he's also kind of said that they have it well in hand. Like maybe they haven't picked precisely how they're going to, but it sounds like they have a lot of ideas, all of which work, but they just haven't picked which one. As we've said, it doesn't seem very complicated. It doesn't seem like it's going to have some butterfly effect, at least not a significant one. So anyway, here is basically what he said about it all.
Yeah, you could tell he also thought it wouldn't be a big deal because he says he wrote this. Parker said he wrote that scene to be tongue-in-cheek, quote, only for half of the people at HBO to take it quite seriously, and probably half of my writing room too. It was just like, no, what do you mean? We've got to answer it now. The showrunner added, we've actually gone through a lot of iterations on how to deal with that. And so far, we've landed on my favorite one, which is being addressed with hopefully a light touch and also a little bit of a dark humor as well. So yeah, it'll be played for comedy, it seems.
Darkly.
Yeah, but it will be addressed
but lightly,
and handled.
Dark and light. Light touch, dark humor. Oh, Ooh, little connotation there. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I think you all probably could agree with what I said, and it sounds like they have several answers for how to handle it, and so far they've landed on the one that Ira prefers. But who knows if they maybe have to change their mind, but even if they do, they've got other possibilities. So either way, it sounds like they have it handled. Regarding season 2 film, Sean, go ahead.
I just want to say real quick, I reiterate what I've said many times, is I think they can handle this easily. I think they could even get away with literally changing nothing. And even later on, Egg has the signet. Like, as it is, we never saw him get the signet. And as it is, we know there were all sorts of adventures between the first and second book. So I think it's easy for us to fill in our heads how it might or when it might have happened.
And even more time passes between book 2 and 3. It's 10. It's exactly. It's like a year and a half between 1 and 2, but more like 2 to 2.5 for the next one.
So I think that he will just stick to the main story. I think season 2 is just going to be book 2, and they'll flesh out some character that didn't get in a book, and they'll have some flashback that wasn't in a book, and they clearly seem to make some attempt to address that finish. But I think it was. I said earlier, I give it 3 scenes. I think I think it's going to be a dozen lines over 3 scenes, and it'll just be something that's quick and easy, and they just move on. He didn't intend for it to be a whole new storyline.
Yeah, and he's
not going to let it be a whole new storyline.
Yeah.
People around him seem to think they need to address it, so fine, he'll address it, but it'll be quick, it'll be simple, it'll be funny.
Light touch, dark humor.
So the deaths, the great spring sickness happens between 1 and 2. My theory for the dark humor is that there's a bunch of deaths, and Maekar sees Egg and approves it and gives him the ring.
He goes to
because of all the deaths.
They could meet at Summerhall too, which is on the border of which is where Maekar lives, so that would make sense, and that's on the border, like the 3-way border of the Reach and the Stormlands and Dorne, so they could, they could emerge from Dorne and go right to Summerhall. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time on that question. It sounds like it's well handled. Here's a little question or a little preview that's also a bit of a challenge that season 2 is facing. We're thinking about how muddy it was for the trial and how that was authentic for Ireland. Well, we're talking about a drought for season 2. Well, they're not going to film in Belfast, are they? That's probably not going to work out. There's just no way to make it dry there. So here's what Ira had to say about that.
Yeah, he has spoken about the budget for season 2 and how you might think it's better and they have more money to spend on things because they're not doing all the jousts, but they're actually having some unanticipated cost in terms of filming on location, which is to say, this is from an IGN interview. He says, "We are going to drier pastures in Spain for the drought scenes, except that the location that was meant to be our dry riverbed is now a fully flowing river after getting rain for the first time in 10 years at this location. And so now has sent us scrambling and searching for changes at this late date." So that costs a lot of money, location scouting, getting the rights to film and moving, like all of that. So there's one, that costs a lot. 2, he spoke about this separately. They're filming more scenes with Egg. That costs more for them to do because they have to use child hours. So they can't film as efficiently as they can with an adult. So it's actually costing them more to film in a few respects, from locations to the actor feature.
Yeah, he can't be you. They can't have, like, you could ask an adult to film 18 hours in a day. You can't do that with a 10-year-old. That's illegal.
Yeah. So, despite it being less of a huge production with jousting and all, it seems like it's still, like, they're still using every bit of their budget, which makes me seem like they'll be trying to cut corners, save money, I guess I should say, on flashbacks of the Blackfire Rebellions, which is going to be very expensive. And if they can have a way to do it in a way that is effective, funny, or something, they will do it in a way to save money, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. So let's close this episode out, close out our wrap up with some questions from you all. Another set of questions here that you have sent in here. Remember to join us on Patreon, participate in that Topics Moot 2026. It's our 3rd year of doing Topics Moot. It's been a lot of fun each year. And of course, you can find the link to that Patreon and the other ways to support our show at historyofwesteros.com. Greer Gladney says it's more that it implies that he didn't learn the lesson about unintended consequences and being in a position of power. This is in reference to what exactly?
Maybe egg running off without permission. Probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. About disliking what it means about egg. Yeah, okay. I see. Yes, that is probably right. Yeah, and which again, he's so young, and young people don't have the ability to necessarily think through all that. But yeah, I think
he did ignore that this could. It could lead to Dunk being killed, right? Like just as well. Yeah.
This is something I meant to make comment on when we talked about it. You know, when the comment that Baylor made, and not that there isn't some wisdom in it, but the fact is, no, not Nelson. Baylor did things that he didn't intend to be harmful that ended up being harmful too. Like every single character. Every person does that.
Especially when you're in power and you're all your actions have an influence on a lot of people. You can't be perfect. Yeah, you make a mistake, a lot of people are affected by it. But like, who's a perfect leader? No one. I mean, no such thing exists. Corn Emperor sends a super chat, says, in my opinion, despite the conspiracy, Fagon makes for the best king for A Song of Ice and Fire. An unlikely rain like eggs. My biggest dream is a dream of spring. Love y'all. Yeah, a dream for a dream of spring too. That's a big dream. But yeah, I mean, a great thing about Fagon, is Varys did try to impart, and John Connington tried to impart some of the basics that made Egg a good king, which was understanding things from the common folks' perspective, living that life, being in danger. The problem is that I think Dany had a more authentic version of that life. She actually was on the run, and she was actually being chased without protection of Illyrio and John Connington and this whole like conspiracy that was over 20 years of planning, which, so it's a little more engineered. Dany's is a little more authentic, but still, that doesn't mean Fagon wouldn't be a better king because he's probably not insane or whatever. I don't know. Doesn't have dragons. I don't know.
Not really Targaryen. That could be a bonus.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
Does Young Griff even like fishing? I mean,
I think Dany is way more likely to save Westeros, but she's also more likely to have some sort of darker ending. Fagon, of course, might just have an ending. That isn't really. He just dies, Jenny of Coldstone Creamery, which remains one of the cooler screen names we see regularly here. I think the anachronistic music fits the vibe, considering that George inserts pop culture references all over the place. Tully Muppets, Grandmaster Bennifer, Grateful Dead references speaking of music, all over the place.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never once considered that Grandmaster Bennifer could actually be a reference to, I guess you mean the couple named Bennifer. I don't know if that's what you mean, but I don't think it is a reference, and it just makes me chuckle to think that George loves celebrity couples.
Oh, Bennifer, and I didn't get that either.
I don't think it is a reference to that. It's just
Ben and Jennifer. Okay,
yeah, I don't
hilarious.
think it is, but I've never considered it. It's very funny to me.
That is really funny. That could be you never know.
He's always shipped them.
Yeah, George secretly is a big fan of pop culture. You wouldn't know it, but
he's always on TMZ.
Ani Haryatyanyan, I hope I said your name right or close to it anyway, sends a super chat and a hippo sticker. We love a hippo around here.
My favorite animal, actually.
And Yaki Nico says, any confirmation of the Royal Shakespeare Company producing a stage play titled The Mad King about the tourney of Harrenhal? Oh, more than confirmation. It is happening this year. It is done. I mean, as in it's ready to go or close enough that they've announced it.
And so on. Right?
So we're likely to do an episode about it before we see it, and certainly one or two afterwards. So
and we're thinking it's Robert in Deep Geek did a little bit of research into the schedule, and he said that there happens to be a window of roughly September to October where it seems likely that that's when it'll be, and they say summer and early September can still be summer. I don't know.
So stay tuned. We will announce whenever we have new info, we will share it with you all, both in an episode and on our social media.
And that'll be at Stratford upon Avon, and they'll probably almost certainly extend the run and go to London and go to New York and hopefully some other countries.
But we're trying to see it as soon as possible. As soon as maybe probably not opening night, but as soon as possible, as close as that is possible.
And we should know. I think was it April 14th or I forget the date, but we will know the dates when the ticket sales will open and all of that. So we'll know a while in advance.
Our trivia question was, who's the only character from the Hedge Knight that we see again, apart from Dunk and Egg themselves? And the answer is Sir Roland Craighall. He, one of the three Kingsguard Knights, when Bloodraven shows up with the army at the end. Sir Roland Craycall comes and finds Dunk and says, "Hey, Bloodraven wants to talk to you." I was like, "Oh, hey, it's Sir Roland again." So, it's interesting. Sir Roland's one of the few characters also that they didn't really seem to bother casting him in a way that he looked like, because he's supposed to be redhead. They're like, who cares? We'll just do random handsome guy that's not redheaded and not worry about it too much. So, it's possible I forgot somebody else that's in the Mystery Knight or the Sworn Sword. Well, probably not the Sworn Sword because it's got a much smaller cast, but, I can't think of anybody. So if you can correct me, or, well, it wouldn't be a correction probably so much as an add-on, an addendum, let me know. Did anyone get that? Did anyone get Sir Roland Craycall there?
No.
All right. It was a little bit tough.
No one guessed that I saw, unless I somehow missed it.
Cool.
Yeah, I think someone guessed Makar. I think that was about it.
All right.
Actually, Frackin' Toaster Lover says, actually, we see Baelor, Valar, and Arlen in Dunk's dream in the Sworn Sword. That
Okay.
A dream counts.
All right. Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't count that, but I can see why you might. I would say like in person. Maybe I could clarify the question. I meant in person, because he definitely thinks about Baelor. He thinks about Stefan as well, as we mentioned earlier. As for our poll, which character from season 1 will we see again first? Arian got the fewest votes, which makes sense because he's being exiled. Only 6%. 15% of you said Tanzel. 22% of you said Raymond, and 57% said Makar. And I think the boot change might be part of why.
Yeah, it's maybe just his dad.
Also,
it
it's
makes
his father.
sense,
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot of reasons it makes sense. Yeah, definitely. So thank you all for participating in that poll and the other polls and everything else you participate in. We certainly do appreciate the engagement.
Go find our Facebook group or our Patreon and go vote while you can.
Yeah, we got more polls up, more fun stuff. We'd love to announce the results of those, but I put those polls up today, so they haven't really had enough time to marinate, shall we say. So we'll mention that again at a future date, or perhaps just post the results on social media. Either way, we will let you all know. Thanks to all of you for being with us all season long, and those of you who have been here even longer than that, for past seasons of other shows, we certainly appreciate that. Sean, did you have? Looks like you have some sort of comment you wanted to add.
Just a plug that every year I do minute-long reviews of all the Academy Award nominees, and that's coming up in a week or two. So my Dancing Sean on YouTube, you'll see
check out. Yeah, channel name Dancing Sean. Yeah, do that. Sean does a really good job with those. You put a lot of effort into that, and I know you put a lot of thought into. Like we said earlier, like you make a lot of deciding who your top 10 are. You put a lot of work into that. So. So very worth it. If you guys are curious about that or into that show, the awards that is. And the things that are up for award. Of course, you can check out the Hedge Knight, the Sworn Sword, and the Mystery Knight reviews that we've done in the past. The Hedge Knight episodes have been reposted to our podcast feed near the top, as has our Baelor Breakspear pair of episodes that were made years ago. We'll be reposting a few other episodes that are related to this, but you can also just find those things deep in our catalog by searching. For example, the Serwyn of the Mirror Shield episode is going to get reposted because that's a bit relevant here. Thank you all again. We will be back most weeks this year with more content. That's going to continue through House of the Dragon season and not. So we'll be covering book topics, Dunk and Egg topics, all sorts of other things. The future remains bright, and we will never run out of content. Thank you to Bran the Builder for our awesome intro that at least a few of you have said the music is stuck in your head, and there's a good reason for that. It's catchy. We will look forward to what he has to do with the updated House of the Dragon intro. He's been working on that too. He's the one who did our intros for that in past seasons, so in case you weren't aware of that. And thanks to Sean and Ashea for everything this season. We've had a great time covering this show, and we are excited about the future of this franchise and all the other things we get to talk about. We're very lucky.
We get a date for House of the Dragon?
June, that's all. Just June. We're waiting. Okay. We're waiting eagerly, nervously, whatever you want to say, to find out the dates.
We don't want it to early June than late June, but we don't know that for sure. We don't want it to
clash with WorldCon or DragonCon for our purposes, but we'll see.
But yeah, so we'll certainly, you all will probably hear about that around the same time we do, because that'll probably be some big news drop when it does happen, but certainly we will be on top of that. So
June 14th is a Sunday. Is my birthday, by the way. So
I'm
Oh.
rooting for that.
That would be cool.
Be perfect for
Let's
me.
all
That
root
would
for
be
that.
optimal for me.
everybody
too.
pray for that, or sacrifice a goat, or whatever you do to make things reality. So thank you all,
Disclaimer,
everybody.
we do not support goat sacrifice. Do not kill any goats.
I
Thank
don't-
you.
I don't agree with
Sacrifice
that.
a woke. Sacrifice the worst of all time. Don't sacrifice.
Yes, sacrifice. That's good. Nice one. The black goat of Qohor. You could sacrifice that one. That's a pretty bad goat.
Sacrifice a banana.
Yes, they shouldn't exist. All of them. Get rid of all the banana. The world should be purged of bananas and all their evil influence and odor.
Send her to me. I'll take care.
Thank you all, everybody. Until next time, you know what to do. Valar, read us.